We're not recording. Look at the thing. Okay, now we're recording.
What's up, family? Sorry about that. Welcome to Colonial Outcast's first live, having this many legends on one panel. We have a few stragglers running late.
No.
This is a crisis session, emergency roundtable with some very good friends that you may or may not recognize from your news feed in the social media sphere. This is going to be a little chaotic because it's a lot of us, and we have a lot of pent-up aggression after watching the most cowardly specimens of humanity officially taking us to the next level of tyranny. The purpose of this episode, aside from hopefully being a cathartic session of getting out our rage and assuring the audience that you are not alone in going through the unhinged nature that comes with watching the horror that we're seeing, we also want to inspire you to start brainstorming and being leaders in your own sphere of influence for the sake of bringing your fellow citizen from wherever region you may be in into this fold of resistance and rebellion against the rise of this Fourth Reich that is taking quick shape. So, Greg, you had to say something. Greg? I don't think Greg hears me. Greg?
Yeah, I had to say something. Yeah, can you hear me?
We hear you.
You can't hear me?
I hear you. I hear you.
Okay, so something's fucked up with my audio. I'm getting kickback, so you keep riffing.
Okay. Well, we're waiting for. Do we have anybody else down in the green room waiting for us? Oh yeah, we got. Yeah, there they are. We got Mia. We got Mo. Who else are we waiting for? Bree. Everybody is just so discombobulated. All right. So we have Mo Homs.
Hey guys.
Peter, you guys should see what I'm looking at right now. Like I can't see you guys at all. Like my computer.
I see you.
Yeah, we see you, but you're frozen.
But I think you're choppy on your end.
Okay, well, you know what? I just wanted to take this opportunity to say that this is why the fascists will win, because it's 9:04. You guys missed your hit time, and now all your friends are dead. So they're all dead. Okay. So, anyways, glad everyone's here. Are we waiting on anyone else?
Mm-mm.
Mark's muted. This is going to be a shit show.
Yeah, I was trying to keep it structured, and then you had it. All right. Anyway, we're going to get back on track, guys. Here we go. So we have Mo Homs, Mia, who's the Count of Space Bunny News, Lucius, Omar. By the way, am I saying that right, Lucius?
Yes.
Okay, cool. Omar, Brianna-based, and my podcast partner in Anarchy, Greg Stoker, ex-Army Ranger turned anti-war and anti-colonial activist and journalist after serving in Afghanistan and witnessing the war crimes under the Obama regime. And myself, Mark Wayne, ex-Army National Guardsman and former evangelical Zionist who almost joined the IDF in 2005 when I studied abroad in Jerusalem. But like many Americans who actually go and viscerally experience the Zionist state back-to-back with Palestine, the Pallies got to me, and I fell in love with Palestine instead. So this panel has been a long time coming, actually, and consists of some of the best people I know who have been tracking the ongoing humanitarian nightmare happening not just in Palestine, but also here at home with the completely disconnected ruling class of corporate Dems and Republicans who are not even pretending anymore to avoid war or care about the average American. We're dealing with a heavy media blackout right now on the unfettered bombing of Gaza, the ever-growing ethnic cleansing of the West Bank, and the Gestapo-style kidnapping of legal residents who have dared to even whisper a single word against our annoying little parasite brother state of Israel. This is going to be an unconventional episode for Colonial Outcast in the sense that most of us most of our content is analysis, while this one is going to be both analysis and synthesis by brainstorming with some of the most dynamic influencers in this movement. Because we have so many legends on this panel, it's going to require us to be more structured. So as you could see that we completely were not at the beginning of this. So the way I'm doing this is having a round robin of the latest news updates that each of the badasses on this panel that you see here wants you to start tracking. And then we're going to get into some brainstorming and workshopping. So we're going to start with my favorite rage supplier, Mo Homs. Like a crack addict, I'll go to his account and get my release of concurrent rage and critical news updates. If you don't know Mo, you should. He's a proud Palestinian American activist who seeks to use anything and everything at his disposal to speak out about Palestine and educate the masses, whether it be through speech or writing or video, and looks forward to the day that Palestine is free. He was born and raised in Baltimore, Maryland, and currently lives in New Jersey with his wife and kids. If there's one thing Mo values most, it's his family and his people. Mo's family is from Palestine, specifically Ein Kerem on his father's side, which is just outside Jerusalem, and Tubas on his mother's side in the West Bank. Mo's great-grandparents were displaced during the Nakba of 1948, where they were forced to seek refuge in Jordan. Mo just recently visited Palestine with his family for the first time in September of 2023, which we're about to talk about. But Mo, before we get into your visit in 2023, what's the biggest item on your radar right now that you want the audience to start tracking as far as news?
I would say like we're now in a desperation mode of collective action, where I think we've witnessed so much carnage over the past year and a half and plus. And obviously for Palestinians, it's over 77 years of this shit. So we basically, like, I think where we stand today is we've done pretty much every single thing we could possibly think of in terms of protesting, letters to the Congress, disruption at Congress, like Greg and Josie getting literally carried out to the point of, full disruption. And there's no movement at the moment. And we're literally, as of every minute and to this minute, I'm still seeing videos of, children burning alive in tents. Like literally just before I got on this call, I saw that. So things are not changing, which means we need to change the way we act. And I think it's the time to act in a very absurdly disruptive manner. I think we need to hit where it hurts the most. Obviously, we continuously say it's the pockets of these politicians and trying to get to the lobbies and that have the power here in our Western world. But it's also really going to hit home at the agents of change, which are not just the corrupt West, it's also the corrupt Arab governments and Arab leaders. And where, for example, Egypt is a very strong reason why the Rafah border is closed. It's not just the fact that Israel is blocking aid. They're asking Egypt to block the aid, and Egypt is, on the Rafah border is complying to it. So it's making sure that we go to the embassies of Egypt all across every single country that has an embassy or a consulate. And, staging sit-ins, that, for example, and disrupting in that manner in the most forceful way possible, in my opinion. So I think that's like the biggest thing on my end is I'm getting a little tired and sick of the, optics of let's walk and march on the weekend in solidarity because it's doing nothing at the moment. And I'm really, really tired of it. And at this point, we need to, and I literally just said this last week, is like protesting on the weekend is very weak. And I say hitting the working days is where we have to do the work. And I think in that's very, very a key element, in my opinion, is that we need to, like, during the days when people think it's the normal run of the mill, I'm going to go to work and have a normal day. That's when we have to disrupt. We have that. Disrupt at your workplace, disrupt on the streets on a Monday, disrupt at the bank on a Tuesday, disrupt at the embassy on a Wednesday. Like this needs to happen fairly regularly, make noise as much as humanly possible, and hit the airports, even like where all the arms are going from specific complicit airports. We need to really make actionable noise now. It's no more of this like bullshit that I'm and I hate calling it bullshit because protesting is protesting. We need to be able to protest in every moment and every day, but it's bullshit now because nothing's happening. Nothing's moving. I don't see any change. So we need to make sure we change the way we act.
Right. And I would just like to say the other foundation of that is now intersectionality. So pro-Palestine movement, if that's your primary thing, if anti-war is your primary thing, not going to get it done. It's just not. It's not enough, but people who give a shit. So we do have liaisons with like Stop Cop City and Welwani Forest Defense Society, where they're building this cop city in Atlanta. We just interviewed a climate activist. You know, the entire term domestic terrorism came out of the 90s in response to direct action by climate activists. So anti-immigration people, ICE activists, all of it needs to be together, sending out liaisons and stuff. Because even if we do that, the state's the violence of the state is being weaponized to a degree we haven't seen since the time of McCarthy. Now we're seeing extraordinary renditions where people are taken to extraterritorial locations where they no longer have rights, because it's easier to take someone out of the law than take the law out of someone. So you have to move them to a new place, and there's just not enough people interest into it or doing anything at the moment right now. Yeah, people are getting scared. They think they're going to vote next election. But yes, I do agree with the direct action. Protests don't really do anything. And I had a thing prepared because I got to leave soon. But yeah, it's intersectionality and actually doing things that are effective. And, you know, did anyone raise your hand if you went to the hands off NATO protest?
That
The hands-off protest. Sorry, the one thing that they said that really stuck in my mind was the hands-off NATO thing. A part of their things, like hands off our democracy, our institutions, NATO. I was like, ugh, you lost me there, guys. But I just wanted to say that it's not just this takeover; it's also controlled opposition, right? I think we saw it very clearly at Bernie Sanders when, you know, there was crowds chanting at him, "Free Palestine," and he was just like paralyzed, completely paralyzed. And AOC, she's a career politician. She's not going to be a left-wing political candidate. Yeah. And so controlled dissent feels like rebellion, but it's not, right? It looks like protest routes fenced off with police tape, marches planned with permits and curfews, rage that's monetized in ad campaigns, hashtags that trend but change nothing. So I went to the protest at the Capitol for the hands off just to bear witness, and I took my press pass just because I thought like there was going to be a ton of cops there. Not a single cops. There were 3 sniper positions on the UT Capitol when the campus protests happened, and there was nothing. Not even dudes in uniform. There were plainclothes guys walking around, but there was no marked fleet cars, no line of picket cops or anything. So that's exactly what controlled opposition looks like. I took some people there because it was like their first protest, and I'm like, okay, cool, get it out of your system, and then let's start looking at other things to do, because, you know, it's like rebellion rebranded. Power doesn't just silence rebellion, it rebrands it. Like hands off our protests, selling shirts, love wins on the lips of like the very corporations funding genocide. DEI panels run by the same systems and humans that exclude and perpetuate harm. You know, mental health campaigns that shame rage and shame any sort of like violent action or any expression of that rage physically. Feminism stripped of class, race, and ability, like the Blue Origin flight. That was another good thing of rebellion, a good example of rebellion rebranded. And, you know, fascism needs your compliance. It'll let you scream just enough to avoid a fight while we're busy raising awareness. They're passing surveillance laws, banning books, militarizing the streets. This is not passive. It's literally their strategy. So basically looking at some points, public safety used to outlaw protests, Palestine solidarity labeled as terrorism, anti-trans bills cloaked as protection. It's all like collective intersectionality, or it's just not going to work. So we can't also, because we've been getting stuck in like longer than a lot of people have, and more violently recently in the past couple of years. I think we need to be like the outreach, the liaisons to these other movements. That's
what made the. Sorry, go ahead.
No, I was going to say, I'm glad you brought it up, because I mean, Lou and I were in DC when I think there was like 7 protests happening at the same exact time. And this is like an absurdly important point, because we always, as a Palestinian movement, bring up how there's an interconnectedness across everything, right? pretty much stems from one common source, one common enemy, which is like, our capitalist fascist government currently at this very moment. But the fact that like it almost felt like when we're in the same city, we were all in DC, almost felt like we were siloed in that city, like to the point where there was no cohesion. We're all kind of on the same team, but don't really like outwardly say it or do it.
Yeah, and that's what someone in the comments just said. If you're referring to the hands-off protests in D.C. on April 5th, the pro-Palestine protest the same day and time was kind of a separate event. There were cops at that one, though.
Exactly. Like our movement was actually, to be quite honest, was like the biggest movement. I'm not trying to like knock any other movement. The Palestinian movement in DC was massive. It was big. It was huge. But at the same time, I also bumped into Linda Sarsour, who bumped into the anti-immigration protest, which was also happening at the same time. And we ended up sort of converging in a way because we had conversations together with them. And that movement sort of like, melded into ours as well. But that needs to happen across the board. And there shouldn't have to be like, that separation, especially when we're at this point where when you have 6 different protests in one day in DC, there needs to be some sort of interconnectedness and talking prior to that even happening. There needs to be some sort of coordination, collaboration, and, hitting them all as a united front. That is the most powerful thing on earth when it comes to, the US. So,
yeah. And that's what kind of made the Vietnam War protest movement so powerful, is that we had the Black Panthers linking up with the anti-war movement. You had you had feminist marches going on. You had all kinds of intersectionality, and it was effective. It took some time, but and Greg knows more about the strategies that were used during the Vietnam War era that were the most effective. But to kind of I primed a video based on what you guys were talking about. I'm sure a lot of you guys have seen this, but it touches on all the points you guys just made.
We're so excited to see you fighting on the streets for your democracy, especially since you did not mention the genocide, because that would be a no bueno. The Fight the Oligarchy movement is not controlled opposition. Do not look up what controlled opposition means. While Trump and his cronies are ransacking our economy, it is a great time to organize and take collective action. And the Democratic Party is not attempting to absorb dissent, redirect radical energy, and preserve the status quo. And do not look up the history of NATO's war crimes. Or you may realize that the reason these signs say hands off NATO but not hands off Palestine is because acknowledging Palestine would alienate their liberal donors, their democratic allies, and their foundational ideology of pro-imperialist progressivism. No, we're just happy to see you all screaming no to Trump, because as long as you can be herded into supporting one of the two parties against the other, then the empire's crimes can continue unimpeded. That's why we're giving way more mass media attention to the anti-Trump protests than we are to any of the anti-genocide protests. We just want to make sure we have fighters out there like Bernie and AOC getting you to clap along to our performative show. Because if you stopped clapping along long enough to collect with your fellow workers, you might actually start organizing and create some positive change by opposing the abuses that are advanced by both parties like war, militarism, imperialism, capitalism, and authoritarianism. Why we loved how much you cheered for Cory Booker's impressive 25-hour speech. Trump is bad. Yeah, I said it. Trump is racist. Trump is so nasty. Oh my God, I'm getting $25. You like that, right? It's wild to us that Trump is restructuring the entire government, but you're all impressed with some little speech by a man who fully supports the annihilation of the Palestinian people, even though the speech didn't stop a bill, a vote, or even a debate, so it's not actually a filibuster, and then he immediately asked you for $5.
Hi, this is Cory Booker. I just walked off the Senate floor, so I might be a little tired and my voice might be a little hoarse. But if you just send me $5, I can fight Trump.
But that's why we love you. Keep fighting the oligarchs by giving your time, money, your votes to the oligarchs.
I have to say, we're capitalist. And that's just the way it is.
Because that's worked historically. Don't read history. We'll read it for you. Just stick around.
By the way, that book, Black Against Empire, is a great book. So we're going to move on to Mia Next, we have Mia, who I first met in person at a rally in LA. And
Real quick,
then
sorry. I have to go pack.
You got to go to the bathroom? You raising your hand?
No,
Just
I
go to
have
the
to go
bathroom. You don't have to
friggin'
raise your hand.
pack. I'll be back in 20 minutes to talk about psychological warfare before I go to bed. All right? I need my sleeps. Sorry.
All right. So Mia, sorry about that, guys. I first met you at a rally in LA, and since then I always try to roll with you anytime I go to a protest or rally in SoCal. Mia is an independent researcher with emphasis on social and legal apartheid practices by the state of Israel. She makes absolutely excellent historical connections between the genocide of the Native Americans and the Palestinians, with the aim to bring the issue close to home so that they may understand the sensitivity of the Palestinian plight. Mia, before we get into the news bit that you want to highlight, why, as a Mexican Indigenous American woman, do you have a connection to Palestine?
Well, I mean, being Indigenous and Mexican American, that's kind of for obvious reasons. I mean, we've been colonized, you know, yeah, you know, there's a huge saying with the collectiveness between the Mexican American community and the Palestinian community, because we'll march together to the Tijuana border. And there's a huge saying where it says, you know, we didn't cross the borders crossed us. And, you know, there's real generational trauma that comes from losing our native languages, our lifestyles, our clothing, you know, the way that, you know, we handle money in our communities and stuff like that. So, you know, we've lost so much. We've lost our religions. You know, everybody had to go to these Catholic mission schools, and there's like documentaries on how abusive these Catholic mission schools are. But yet in our middle schools here in California, we glorify them. You know, children are making little, you know, cutouts of these missionary schools, which are essentially little concentration camps for Native children. So, I mean, it comes down to, you know, seeing it in my own community, how it affected us, and then, you know, watching it on TV, like, or through my phone, you know, these children being burned alive. I mean, there's too many parallels to completely ignore it. And so the other thing that I really wanted to highlight is, you know, I'm probably the greenest person to this movement. I knew nothing about the occupation of Palestine prior to October 7th. I mean, I was the dumbest person out there. And literally within 24 hours, billions of dollars of propaganda that were used to target people like me, people who didn't know anything. I'm a blank sheet of paper. You know, I am the ideal target for the Israeli and the American government to shape my perception of Israel. And within 24 hours, it just completely collapsed. Because all I had to do was I had to read human rights reports, Amnesty International, UN investigations, third-party investigations. I mean, there's a lot of Israeli organizations out there, Jordan Belly activists. They have amazing videos of them doing protective presence out there in the West Bank. I don't know if I'm saying this right, BT Selam. Have you heard of them? They do investigations. They're an Israeli company as well.
B'Tselem.
Yeah, they're amazing. They document, you know, all of the crimes against Palestinian people. And so all of this information is out there, and it baffles me when I hear people say like, oh, I just don't have it. And it's like, it's there. You just didn't look. That's the whole point, you know? And so that's kind of the frustrating part is it's not that, you know, people can't find the information. It's getting people motivated to actually look, you know, where is the incentive to get people to care about this problem? And so you have to bring it close to home. So the fact that Trump is here, pissing off the rest of the world, causing tariffs, you know, our international partners, they're not going to want to play ball with us anymore, you know, because without our international partners, we're nothing. You know, without other people using the US dollar, our currency is worth nothing. So I actually have a little bit of faith that because our US government is acting such a fool on the world stage, and we're the only ones that is a life raft for the Israeli government, that the whole thing is going to fall apart. So as horrible as it seems, I feel like this is possibly the breaking point that we potentially need to rewrap the system and, you know, really get the information out there. We really need to target the Gen Zers. And I think the student encampments was a huge thing. You know, it got a lot of people questioning. but again, people don't know the exact places to look. Like I'm kind of like a good deep diver, but not everybody is a deep diver like that. You know, going into UN reports, reading pages and pages of stuff. I mean, that shit sucks. Not everybody's going to want to do it. So, I mean, I think archiving information to make it more easy to read for people to view, I think that would be great. I think we need like more YouTube channels about this. I think Watermelon Pictures is doing an amazing job creating, you know, kind of collecting all of this information and making it easy to break down for people, you know. So I think that's something that we really need to help people kind of digest all of this information that's already there. So as far sorry, yeah, go ahead.
No, go ahead. No. Go ahead.
Oh, and then, did you want me to go into my news segment?
Yeah, I was just gonna make one comment. When I first saw you on social media, I think it was your first video. Like I had a sense of comfort because I knew you were from SoCal. So for me, being in SoCal myself, it's somewhat isolating because a lot of people don't, you know, California, you know, the attitude here is like, bro, just enjoy the sun. And it's really relaxed, and we're kind of have like a carefree. I mean, we're under stress, constantly under stress with traffic, cost of living. And we just try to capture just a little bit of relaxation away from the world. And so we don't have a huge, a lot of bandwidth to process what's going on in the world. So when I saw your video, I knew you're from SoCal, and it was very comforting to see that and to see how deep you went into it. And you're not Palestinian. So that to me was like a glimmer of hope for Southern California. And I'm sure there's a lot of, you know, influencers on that live in Southern California, but particularly you as a Latina and as Native American, it was very inspiring to see you raise your voice and go into such depth to it. So just want to make that comment, but go ahead with your news segment.
So I spoke about this because I was on here talking with Greg. Everybody is kind of looking at Gaza right now. And so I just want to take a moment to focus on the West Bank just for a second. There was one thing that I found out about the Disengagement Act of 2005. So prior to October 7th, the Knesset had passed a bill to remove parts of the Disengagement Act. Now, the Disengagement Act is really commonly known for pulling out of the Gaza Strip, but it was also removing 4 settlements in the northern West Bank. These are all settlements. These are all areas that are currently being ethnically cleansed by Israel. Jenin, Tulkarem, that entire area where they're now allowing settlers back in. So, and that happened prior to October 7th. A year later, like almost a year to the date, because they still needed the blessing of the defense minister, which at the time was Yoav Gallant, he signed off on it. And then, you know, Operation Iron Wall is happening. So I just kind of wanted to put 2 and 2 together because everybody is, you know, there's that huge Zionist argument where, you know, the Palestinians are the aggressors and Israel is just doing everything in defense of itself. But, you know, October 7th happened after the fact that Israel was trying to annex territory in the West Bank. And so, you know, can you also make the argument that Palestinians are also attempting to defend themselves? You know, would people of Gaza not look at part of the Disengagement Act being repealed like, fuck, they're coming for us next, you know? Yeah. How is that not, you know, a motivation to want to, you know, protect your land and protect your people? So I think I don't think that was a coincidence whatsoever. Because there's other parts of the West Bank. I mean, yes, they're trying to ethnically cleanse the entire area, but focusing on that area where the specific settlements were at, I think that's not a coincidence whatsoever.
Yeah, I was actually when I arrived in Jerusalem, it was right at the disengagement was starting to happen in 2005. And I remember talking with Israelis about the disengagement and how it was supposed to be like a huge civil war type of thing because the settlers it was actually a controversial thing in Israeli society. Like, I don't think they should be removing those settlers. They belong there. Like that's where the Overton window was in Israel in 2005. And that was, you know, back when I was a Zionist at that time, because I just arrived. So going back to what you were saying though about the annexation of the West Bank, one thing that they've already primed us for, the Trump administration, by putting what's his name, was that Mike Huckabee? his role was to prime Christians, evangelicals in the United States, to be excited for the fact that the Jews are taking over ancient Judea and Samaria. Now I haven't heard about Micah Huckabee since then, but I just I saw the writing on the wall whenever he appointed Mike Huckabee. Like, okay, that's what they're gonna do. They're gonna prime the evangelical
he tried
Christian
to dodge
community
the
in the
question.
United States to be excited for this.
Yeah,
I just
he was
read
trying
an
to dodge
article.
the question.
I just read an article from him where he's all excited to move to Israel, and I don't know why they quoted this, but it was the stupidest thing to put in the article. They were like, he told his dogs that they don't know how long this flight was going to be, and so he was scared to tell his dogs. I'm like, how the fuck is that relevant? Like, are you trying to like bring some humanity to ethnic cleansing? There is none. There is none. This is not acceptable whatsoever. And I don't know, what are we going to call this? Because there's like pink washing, green washing. We got to call something with this Zionist washing propaganda.
Oh, Jesus Christ. I don't know. Let's keep it on Caucasianizing it.
Caucasianizing it, Zionizing it.
Yeah.
Zionizing.
Yeah, Mark, I did want to touch on one thing that Mia said, though. I think the defending itself argument is absurdly played out and idiotic at this point. Anybody that says it just is completely foolish and just doesn't understand any history or any context or any law whatsoever. Based on the UN Charter, like, you cannot even say that you're defending yourself. You have an occupier and an occupied. If you're occupied, there's no such thing as defending. I think Ralph Wild, who's an academic professor at like Harvard and Oxford, basically of an expert in international law, saying that you cannot defend. I mean, essentially, there's no such thing as defending yourself against the defenders, in a sense. Like, Palestinians are defending themselves and defending for their lives and defending their livelihoods and defending their basic human rights and defending existence right now. So for any person in any capacity to bring up Israel's defending itself when they are the occupying power is just completely idiotic. It's the stupidest argument I've ever heard in my life. And to continuously hear that on TV, through political politicians, on Western media, and people just literally eating that up, it's just sickening to me. But it's literally law. It's in the UN Charter saying you cannot even say that. It's literally illegal.
But honestly, though, like I guess such small, narrow mental capacity of the people who argue this, by the time you get into the UN stuff, they're already clocked out and they got their little soundbite in. But one question that I've noticed does cause Zionists to stumble so easily is when you ask them, like, okay, do you think Israel has a right to defend themselves? They said, yeah, of course. And I'm like, okay, I don't agree with that. But here's my next question. Do Palestinians have the right to defend themselves? They get so fucked up on that question because they usually take about a good 10 seconds to answer. And sometimes they'll say, yes. Okay. So what does that look like? Like, when do they have the right to defend themselves? What capacity? So if the IDF rolls into the West Bank, into their territories, they're shooting at civilians, do they have the right to shoot back? These questions totally screw them up. They do not know how to answer without sounding completely unhinged and completely inconsistent. So just an easy wrench to throw in the gears of a Zionist is ask them the simple question: do Palestinians have the right to defend themselves? And then explore that route, go off that exit on the freeway and start really exploring that topic, and you will just see their whole logic just crumble before their eyes. And anybody watching it will see the logic crumble before their eyes. So,
I mean, and to your point, visually, you can show that literally. I forget what the name of their holiday is, the Jewish holiday that they celebrated, where they dance on the streets and do festivals and
Purim.
What is it?
Purim. My Israeli girlfriend cheated on me during Purim when I was there.
All right, there you go. Essentially, like, visually, you can show the juxtaposition, like in Israel, in Tel Aviv, which we know is not Tel Aviv. They're literally dancing on the streets, having raves, raging, drinking, doing everything possible, like having the best time of their lives. And that exact same week is when we saw the mass murder of like 70 children or not even like over close to 200 children in like 3 days, right? Like that was the same exact week. And when they're saying they're defending themselves, right, in that juxtaposition, right, you can show a visual side by side. In this panel right here, you have Purim and the dancing and festivals. In the exact same time frame, in this panel right here, you have children literally dismembered, beheaded, and it's over 200 children. I'm only speaking about children right now, and it was close to 1,000 people within a span of 72 hours, right? In that exact same week, for someone to even breathe the fact that Israel's defending themselves within that context, it just makes you look stupider than any human on this planet. And you are not.
You want to know what's even more sick concerning what you're talking about Purim? Killing your enemy, slaughtering your enemy is part of the tradition connected to Purim, right? Because the story goes, Purim is based on the story of Esther, who was the queen a Jewish queen who was married to the king, and she saved the Jewish lives after they were going to be exterminated. Not the Jewish lives, but the Israelites, right? And because Esther celebrates the story of Esther celebrates the survival of the Jewish people against their enemies, the slaughter of Israel's enemies, quote unquote, is part of the tradition of Purim. So 200, you said, children dying is not just an off chance it happened during Purim. It was part of like it was a celebration of it. So that just goes to show how sick they've twisted the Torah.
I mean, they dress up in costumes of dead Arabs during it too. So, yeah.
It's part of the tradition. That's how Israel has twisted Judaism in such decrepit ways. So and
just going back to like the information, I mean, I don't really get into any of the religious topics, but, you know, I will look at what policy is for, like, you know, the Israeli military and stuff like that. And they had a policy called intel mapping. And so these IOF soldiers would essentially go into West Bank villages, and they would do this in the middle of the night, and they would break into homes. They would pull everybody out of their homes, every child out of their bed, put them in their living room, scared, crying. You know, they would beat the adults who were resisting this, and they would take pictures of everybody. They would take pictures. They would label where all of these children slept, how many people were in the house, who were the visitors. And so this intel mapping allowed them to have information on everybody. And so there's another it's called Blue Wolf AI. And so they also labeled this the Facebook of Palestinians, where they would essentially kind of put every Palestinian into a database. And when I was watching a documentary on this, there was one child who said that they were told by an IOF soldier, oh, you haven't been arrested yet. So it was policy for them, by the time these children are about 12, 13 years old, for all of them to have been detained and processed through these military detention facilities, all of them processed through this Blue Wolf AI artificial intelligence database, and for all of their homes to have broken down. And so these children are growing up in these terrified conditions where this has happened to their older brothers and sisters, and they're just waiting for the day that it's going to happen to them, and having to grow up in that psychological trauma. And they're wondering why, you know, oh my gosh, they hate us because we're blah, blah, blah. You know, it doesn't matter about anything religious wise. It matters because of these policies that they are implementing on this society that is heavily affecting these children's lives. And they're growing up with this trauma. Fuck the religious part of it. Let's just speak about their political actions, their military actions against it, you know? Sorry.
Yeah, I mean, any Palestinian will look you in the eye and tell you it's not about religion. And Ahmad knows this too. So like, it's never been ever since 70 years plus ever about religion. They use it directly. Like the Zionists, it's their main alley-oop talking point is to bring up religion. It's Muslims versus Jews. They want to kill all the Jews. It's all complete bullshit. It's smoke and mirrors, as we all know. It's we have a very, very clear statement. We have a very, very clear movement. Is like, the fact that we're fighting for human rights and that they use that as a way to say we hate all Jews is just is what our current situation is at the moment, and what every single politician in Western media is trying to amplify against us, which is absolutely false. And it's something we're so used to at this very moment, but people have caught on to this bullshit.
It's actually the most anti-Semitic thing you could ever do, is conflate the actions of Israel with Judaism. And, you know, it goes back to my theory on human shields. The Jews are human shields for Israel. That's what they are. All the arguments about human shields with the Palestinians, all been debunked, but very much so Jews are human shields for Israel. And obviously we're seeing the result of that. The Jewish communities are getting sick of it.
Right.
At least like the ones who are more disconnected from Zionism that has infiltrated most synagogues, just like they've infiltrated most churches, you know.
Zionists just put Jews on a list, we all heard of Beitar, right? They literally just put them on a list for deportation. It's the sickest thing on earth that they literally go in public, post it on social media to say, we are trying to find the Jews that are against the state of Israel and putting them on a list to send them away in the USA. That logic alone should wake every single fucking person up in this nation, Palestinian, pro-Palestinian or not. That alone is that should be the telltale sign right there.
It shows that they've been studying the Gestapo. They must have a full Gestapo playlist. So,
Exactly.
but we're gonna move to Lucius. Freelance journalist and social media activist with a primary focus on social justice issues, politics, and the genocide of the Palestinian people that is directly affecting his family in Gaza. From reporting in Charlottesville during the dawn of Antifa, getting shot at during BLM, live. Oh, you got shot at too. Me too. We got something in common. I got shot at during BLM as well. Good times. And live describing the atrocities in Myanmar, to make activism more accessible, to compiling the atrocity of the Zionist regime. Lucius's activism has brought him to this panel against his will. By the way, I just want to say that everybody on this panel I've met physically in Chicago, except for Omar. Unfortunately, he was stuck up in Canada. He wasn't willing to come down to Chicago to meet me, I guess. But whatever, Omar, we'll get to you. That's why you're going last, bro. Okay, yeah. That's why you're going last, because you didn't come down to Chicago to meet me, dude. That's exactly why we're doing that. So, Lucius, how you been? It was great to see. I just want to say I was very surprised about how humble of a person you were, because you were so elegant in your videos, and I'm just like, oh man, she's gonna.
I mean, weren't we all surprised that she was actually a person, right?
Dude, right? She wasn't AI.
No. I had to touch her. Like, oh my gosh, she's real.
Yeah, you're not pixelated.
Oh, right. But yeah, no, it was wonderful to meet you all in Chicago, and of course seeing you again, Mo, in DC. That was wonderful as well. I suppose we should get into today's events, if you would be so kind.
By all means, go for it.
And this kind of jumps off of Mia's point about what was it, Blue Wolf AI? Yeah, so yesterday a man in Kabatia, just south of Jenin, was documenting what the Israelis had just done to him and his son. They were driving down the road, they were in the middle of running errands, and the occupation opened fire on their vehicle. So he picks up the camera and he starts recording, and you can hear his young son in the back seat. And this was just yesterday, by the way. You can hear his young son in the back seat, obviously distressed, obviously freaking out, but at the same time with a sense of purpose, because it's as if he already knows the drill. This is something that they experience quite often in the West Bank, specifically in Jenin. With the whole routine, it was like, okay, we need to address, are you hurt? Are you going to make it to a hospital? Are you going to be able to get an ambulance here? Do we need to go through and make sure that one of our friends, families, relatives manages to know where we are, find where we are, all of that stuff? Almost like it was routine. They got so used to it that this was something that they already had played out in their heads when it started. And as the camera pans up, you can see that the father that's recording, as his young son goes through and itemizes, if he's injured, all of that stuff, he's covered in blood. and it's dripping down his face. That's not even the worst of it. Today, Alim al-Mazri was laid to rest this morning. She was a toddler killed in airstrikes in Communist just yesterday. Her mother, Shema, had to say goodbye to her while she was in the hospital fighting for her life because they couldn't postpone the burial. They wouldn't be able to because they needed room in the fridge. The reason why they needed room in the fridge is going to become pretty obvious to you in a moment, because 2 martyrs from Israeli attacks on Al-Barak Street in Deir al-Bala ended up in the Al-Aqsa Martyrs Hospital morgue, just a little ways north of Nasser Hospital, where Alim would have been held if they could have postponed her burial. And 2 martyrs in Israeli attacks on the Al-Amal neighborhood in Khan Yunis, and those were a father and a daughter. The daughter was about 2 years old, very, very, very small. That was just today. They needed space for them in the fridge of Nasser Hospital. Then came the 15 plus martyrs from the attacks that Mo was talking about just a little while ago. That was on the displaced people's tents in the humanitarian area, the self-designated by the Israelis safe zone of Moasi Khan Yunis, where they burned multiple tents down with their rocket strikes. And in that one, Sham Abu al-Rus was one of the only survivors. She's a 2-year-old. She's currently being treated for burns and shrapnel wounds inside of Nasser Hospital. But from that strike, entire families were erased from the civil registry. And one of the most horrifying things that Mo tried not to touch on, so as not to like completely ruin you, was that the bodies were still smoking as they arrived to the morgue. That's just Moasi Khan Yunis. North of the Gaza Strip, there were 6 martyrs, including children, from Israeli attacks on the Al-Atul family tent in Beit Lahia. And that was near Kamal Adwan Hospital. Following strikes on Jabalia, they martyred 7, including 4 children from the Asaliya family. Strikes in Jabalia al-Nazla martyred 3. Early morning attacks on the Hasuna family nearby murdered 10 people and injured 13, all of which were taken to the Indonesian hospital. The reason they knew, and that they always know, that they're going to need the fridge space in the morgues is because this happens daily in the Gaza Strip. Most days average about 60 plus martyrs, and the Western media might report on a strike in a hospital or a particularly brutal attack on a family, but it is incredibly rare for them to give you any idea about what the situation is like in Gaza, beyond pointing out that the United Nations says that after a month and a half, no food entering into the Gaza Strip, people are finally starving. A quick soundbite here and there, maybe some heartwarming story follows it about an orphan inside of like Wisconsin or something who sells blood to pay for a school kid's lunch. Now, that one isn't actually a news story, by the way. I know it's hard to tell sometimes. None of that covers the 68 bombs that were dropped on Yemen in the last 24 hours by the United States. It doesn't even cover a third of what happened inside of the Gaza Strip or in the West Bank. But we're probably going to need to move on here. Otherwise, we're going to be here all night. That is just the last 24 hours, maybe a third of what happened. Don't all talk at once.
You're muted, Mark.
Of course I am. The way that you present, Lucius, this news is so elegant, and I feel like it reaches people that normally would not be paying attention to it, but the way you present it is very human based. I feel like we get flooded with news in the form of like data and very disconnected, I guess, I don't know, like cold-hearted presentation, or even just or overly rage, which makes sense too. But though I feel like the way that you've presented your content throughout this whole atrocity in the past 500 plus days has been a very unique style, and it comes from a very I guess elegant heart, that I no doubt believe that so many have been converted over to our side. So I just want to let you know that I was so impressed with how humble you were when I met you in person, because you're so elegant on video, but you're so humble when we meet face to face, that just want to point that out. Anyway, sorry, I'm getting all sappy and shit. Let's anybody want to talk about these numbers and how the nature of the bloodshed and the sadism is never really captured in media content when it comes to journalism, even pro-Palestinian journalism. It's hard to really fathom what it feels like, what it smells like on the ground with these things. So I don't know. Let you guys open the floor.
I'm just gonna quickly. Oh yeah, go for it, man. Yeah.
Oh well, I mean, what Lou is describing, the videos that we see, it's really difficult to digest, and her storytelling ability, that's very gentle but also very specific with the details. I think it makes it really easy to kind of narrate like what's going on, because a lot of people, at least for me, sometimes when I'm watching these videos, I'm like, fuck, is this in Yemen? Is this in Syria? I don't know where this is. So it's very helpful when you have those details, rather than trying to kind of like read where certain areas are, whose family it is. So also I think that really helps that she gives context behind like who these people are, when it happened, and, giving a little bit of backstory about them. So Lou, I appreciate how you make your videos.
Yeah.
Do you keep like a living archive of all this, like on a document with sources and stuff like that?
Actually, we've all been collective working together to keep a living archive of everything that's been happening. Like if I get the flu or something and I'm not able to cover, what happened between May 13th and, May 26th, there's somebody else doing the backup work. I work with a lot of people who run Telegram channels who make sure that this information is not lost. And then, of course, a lot of it's saved to backup hard drives. That way we make sure that, in the event a Telegram channel gets taken down, which does happen at times, in the event a Telegram channel gets taken down, we still have that information cataloged. We're also sending it in to the ICJ and the ICC, though the ICC is not nearly as important now that we have the arrest warrants. But my role when it comes to making these videos, what Mia was talking about was, it's not just the context. It's a lot of people aren't able to figure out that this is a real human experience. It's not something that you're seeing in a movie. And there are going to be details that your eye doesn't immediately pick up. Going to be things that are said in it that you don't understand because you don't know the language. And these contextual details are important for you to understand that these are lived experiences that are happening right now. And for you to be able to put yourself in somebody else's shoes, you need those details. You need to know how the smoke is burning their lungs as they move through with the concrete dust that is slowly acidifying the lungs or the throat tissue. That these children, when they're coughing like that, it's not because their throat is a little irritated. It's literally chemically burning at this. When you see somebody coming through and, they've just gotten out of a burning building, it's not just the smoke, it's also the gunpowder in the air. They can smell it, they can taste it. And unfortunately, there's also other horrifying scents that come along with that. The smell of burning flesh. I mean, all of these things paint a picture that allows you to understand exactly what's happening in these videos in ways that you would discount otherwise. And I think it helps to fully humanize the situation.
Yeah, I'm gonna jump on like the semi-praise train here because but it's also like a catch-22 because I'm probably am speaking for I think every single one of you guys on this panel when I say that I think the most depressing and most excruciating part of every single thing that we do is trying to filter everything that we see within these bite-sized posts that we want to get to the masses. It's absolutely demoralizing for me specifically when I speak for myself, where like I do not enjoy putting together those little different sized text news for everybody like whatsoever. I despise it. It takes a lot of my time, and it's really just a way for you to get one screenshot of an atrocious event that happened. It's disgusting to me. And what Lou does is filters like 24 hours worth of madness. Like she's able to pull it together within, because we basically have a window of 1 to 10 minutes, right? In the span of like what we have to put out into the post. It to be able to have to filter, and it's almost like triaging the horrific events that happen from day to day, and trying to see like what is the most important carnage that we have to convey to the world in this, in a little bite-sized post. It's disgusting for us to do, but we have to do it because we get so much like news fatigue. There's so much news. Israel is continuously committing crime after crime after crime within every single fucking millisecond of the day, to the point where we get so much news and we are fatigued from reading it, we have to literally extrapolate all of that information to get what we want out to the masses in a one creative way or bite-sized, digestible way. It's very frustrating for us to do this content. It's not for any other reason other than to get this out to the masses in a way that is different than, the Western media news or even Al Jazeera, which is putting out some amazing content that people aren't even like reading at this point because it's so much. So we are now becoming the voice of that at this point.
Yeah, I mean, it's always easier to hide behind 100 atrocities than to hide behind one. I mean, I'm really appreciative of what you guys do. I don't do it. I don't even engage with it. I'm pretty much compartmentalized because it doesn't change what I'm going to do. It's something I learned in the military, and I know what that stuff looks like.
Do what you do best, though.
I know what the bombs feel like, and I don't really engage with it because generally, like, even though I've done a lot of therapy, which everyone in Gaza needs to do at this freaking point, especially the kids, if that's ever possible. Yeah, I mean, I've struggled with alcohol suppression of PTSD, so I don't engage with that stuff at all. I look at like tactical plans and stuff like that because I'm not going down that freaking rabbit hole. So personally, I don't, and like some, not everybody has to, as long as it doesn't like change what your actions are going to be. But I mean, a living archive is so important, and at least putting it out there into the internet where it never disappears is pivotal. So this actually, to speak to your point, I actually have to hop off soon. I've got a 3 a.m. flight, but I just wanted to make your point about like being exhausted, atrocities keep mounting. Like, guys, it's not just with the Palestine stuff and the immense violence going on. It's with the deportations. It's with ICE. It's with the mobilization of state violence against student protesters. This is why I compartmentalize personally, because this is actually psychological warfare 101 from like a doctrinal perspective. So traumatized people are much easier to control. This is why when you're burnout, scared, and overloaded, you will settle for survival instead of liberation. This is why regulating your nervous system isn't self-care. It's more like resistance training. So yeah, just think about what that could look like for you. But like everything that's going on is psychological warfare. Any sort of progressive space has experienced this since the 50s. This is nothing new. The tactics are nothing new. So when you see videos like this, pulling this up real quick, and I keep pulling up other issues too, because it's all about intersectionality at this point. This is Pam Bondi, Attorney General, speaking 3 hours ago on the Hill.
Maryland is safer because he is gone, and that woman that he is married to and that child he had with her, they are safer tonight because he is out of our country and sitting in El Salvador where he belongs.
Yeah, so I mean, the same kind of inhumanity they'll show to Palestinians, they'll show to people here, immigrants, and then citizens, and then any sort of political dissent. Yeah, but it's psychological warfare. It's to make people settle for survival, be like, oh, I don't really want to fight this. Like, maybe they'll just stop with this group of people. Maybe they'll just do that. But they won't. I mean, you don't fight fascism with, no liberal democratic capitalism. You fight it with socialism, and you don't fight like racism with racism. You fight it with solidarity. So yeah, I just want to make that thing about like, if what you're feeling is how they want you to be feeling about things, exhausted, settling, just basically circling the wagons and holding on to any amount of like comfort and privilege that you used to know. in your pre-October 7th, and for a lot of other people, your entire life. So just want to point that out there. I think the gaslighting's done. Like, we all know that the claws are out, but this is literally state-sponsored psychological warfare. So no, you're not going crazy. And yes, you are traumatized. Secondhand trauma is actually a really big thing. It's been studied in the military with logistics units and stuff that weren't actually in combat. It's a thing. So yeah, there's nothing wrong with how you're feeling, and it's exactly how you should. It's just like, what are you going to do about it? That's all. That's the only point I wanted to make before I left.
No, it's a good point.
Funny. You talk about secondhand trauma, it's funny. I hear some people talking about like, oh my God, my childhood was so bad. My dad was in the military, like they're military parents that they didn't even experience the war themselves, but they grew up with somebody who was traumatized. So yes, then they are secondhand traumatized. So yeah, that makes total sense.
Yeah. And so that's what everyone's getting right now. So
I'm glad you touched on this. I'm glad you touched on this, Greg, because it was a good point I was going to bring up, is that all of this overt flooding the zone of trauma and hypernormalization, it is all by design. And the reason why it's so important we brought this up is because there's a lesson that we need to start learning throughout this movement is we have to learn how to manage burnout, because we have to remind ourselves that what the people in Gaza are going through is a million times more than what the trauma that we'll be going through throughout the past 500 days, and they're still fighting. So when you talk to somebody who lives in Gaza, one thing that's so amazing about people who live in Gaza is that even the people that are on the outside of Gaza, they actually care about how you're doing. Like when you're on the phone with somebody over in Gaza, they're curious about how you're doing emotionally, and they want you to be doing well. So as much as we want to fight all the time, 24/7, and as much as we feel survivor's guilt for watching this and having the luxuries of living in the Western world, we have to remind ourselves that the people of Gaza don't want us to not have that. And they would rather that we take care of ourselves so that we can keep fighting for them than to burn out. We're not doing Gazans any good by burning out. So by taking care of yourself and having coping mechanisms like taking a break and having that mental space to recuperate so you can keep fighting is vitally important. And I know that survivor's guilt will set in, and it's natural to feel that way. But just remind yourself that the people of Gaza want you to be healthy mentally and physically so that you can keep on fighting.
And the last point I'll make, it's like, even if you wanted to, be Mother Teresa or whatever problematic figure she ended up kind of being, you can't do it. Like, Vietnam backlash, 10 fucking years. You think everybody was dialed in every day for 10 years? It's not, because after the Gaza situation is resolved, whatever that looks like, then it's going to be the West Bank. Then the occupation will continue. Israel will continue its belligerence throughout the region, influencing our politics. Then our state will become even more militarized and more militarized. Extraordinary renditions will continue to happen. This doesn't just end with Palestine. Like, we live in this country. So it's strap in for the long run, and you don't have to do it every day. And when I said about like self-care is resistance training, it is, because this is literally, hopefully within our lifetime it ends. But we've studied fascism before, so be looking out for that. I would like to say something like positive, but maybe I'll do that the next time we do one of these. But anyways, guys, thank you so much for showing up. Thank you everybody for watching. I got an early flight, so cheers.
Thank you, Greg.
Hopefully the Boeing aircraft doesn't explode, and I'll see you tomorrow for our Thursday episode. So cheers, y'all. Have a good night.
No, you did not just leave saying that.
Well, we'll find out.
On that note,
Greg, how
bye,
dare you?
guys.
Everybody. Yeah, Mark, I'm actually glad you brought up the humanity portion of the Gazans, because I think that's like one of the other juxtapositions that we literally can use just to showcase what our movement is versus theirs. Like, for example, when the hurricanes ravaged here in the U.S., Gazans actually reached out like the Palestinians in Gaza reached out to say, are you guys okay? Like, how are you guys doing? Is everyone all right? And on the flip side, you saw what, like I think it was Valencia, in Valencia, where the fans were chanting like that the hurricanes that ravaged Valencia were as a result of them being so pro-Palestinian, and all the pro-Palestinian movements, and that the hurricanes, the God made that happen to them. Like that's the different dynamics we're working with here. And I do appreciate you bringing that up, and also bringing up the fact that this is one thing that the Palestinians understand is we're in it for the long haul. And we also understand that it's not just the Palestinian movement at all. It's really a movement for all of us. It's again interconnected with every single cause at this very moment. It's just the fact that Palestinians are going through the hell on earth at this very moment, obviously along with the immigrants here in the U.S., which is disgusting what we're seeing, but it's all interconnected. So I'm glad you brought that up, Mark.
There's murals of Floyd on the walls in Palestine.
Exactly.
Yeah, it's insane to me. It's insane to me that people, like, if that was me and I was in Gaza and this was happening to me, I would hate the whole world. I would want the whole world to burn like I was burning, because I'm a selfish Westerner like that. I'm self-centered. People in Gaza, they're happy when you're happy, when you're doing well. Like Dr. Altala, for example, I try to communicate with him every day as much as I can, and just to check in on, even if it's just a text, like, hey brother, how you doing? He says alhamdulillah. I'm like, okay, he's cool. So but there was, when I first met him, I was sick. I had like a cold, and I told him that, and I don't even know why I was even telling him that I had a cold. I was like, I'm a little sick, and he was so concerned about me, and I'm like, yeah, it really sucks. I'm like, what am I doing? Dude, how are you doing? What are you talking about? You're in Gaza right now. So the emotional health of people in Gaza, you'd be surprised of how much it's dependent on people who are outside of Gaza, on how they're doing. So if you're not having a good day over here in the United States and you have a friend in Gaza, that hurts them. Like, they're emotionally distraught that you're not doing well. And I'm just like, that is an insane level of empathy while you're going through starvation, dehydration, physical torture, dysentery, all the ailments that are plaguing them right now. And it just goes to show the character of the people of Gaza, and it blows my mind every time I think about it. There's not people on this planet that have that type of mentality that I've ever met personally, anyways. So Omar, guess what? I'm still pushing you down, because I had Bree's bio before yours, and because I'm just gonna keep on punishing you. So you're shoved you're still shoved to the last. So Brianna, good to see you. I'm glad you made it. I wasn't sure if you're gonna show up or not.
I wasn't sure either.
Yeah, I had to do a whole copy and paste of your bio, for nothing. I thought, So anyway, based in rural Iowa, she is a social media activist and a passionate advocate for social justice. As a proud Mexican-American mama and wife, she focuses on issues related to equality, justice, and humanitarian needs. Her journey from conservative beliefs to a leftist perspective on the U.S. political landscape has led her to learn about powerful interests that shape it. Driven by curiosity and her adult-diagnosed ADHD, I feel you there, sister. She is dedicated to educating others while on this journey, and she tries so hard to hide that Iowan accent, but she can't, because I detect it. Even the little subtle nuances of her speech, I nail her right to the wall with that. So my family on my mom's side is from Iowa. We try to visit as often as we can, so it's good to kind of hear your voice, because you sound just like my aunt, same accent, everything. But what you got going for news today that you want people to be aware of?
As of 2 hours ago, I don't know if you guys have seen it, Israel Katz, the defense minister, he said, hold on, I had it here. He said that the troops are going to stay in so-called security zones in Gaza, Lebanon, and Syria indefinitely. He died. What's that?
You got my hopes up. I thought you were going to say he died.
No, I know. Yeah, this is a quote. Unlike in the past, the Israeli military is not evacuating areas that have been cleared and seized. It will remain in the security zones as a buffer between the enemy and Israeli communities in any temporary or permanent situation in Gaza, as in Lebanon and Syria.
Yeah.
Who keeps turning down these agreements?
Yeah, exactly. And they just don't care anymore. Like they've flooded the whole world with the evil, and they've branded themselves. They know that they're branded as evil. So at this point, like they just nobody's stopping them. So why would they even give a shit about, like, you know, just what do you call it? What's the word I'm looking for? The decorum of it. You know, so we're at that point where, and it makes me wonder, like, this is why I feel like I always say this. I know this is pretty, brash, but I've always seen Israel as the condom of capitalism for that region of the world. It's just a way for Wall Street to do its dirty work in that region without having to have skin on skin contact. And they can just, and they've branded themselves as that by far. I mean, sorry, I know it's the only analogy I can come up with. Lou, come on. I can't be as elegant as you sometimes. All right. Now she's laughing.
I'm sorry. It's just really funny.
But
you're calling Israel the STD then.
Yeah. But it's how the West is able to get away with so much so fast, because there's no and they portray it like Israel's controlling us. That, Bibi Netanyahu coming to Congress, getting 58 standing ovations, making it so obvious that he's pulling the strings, and it makes you wonder, like, if he really was, they would not make it so obvious. And it goes to show that they are just there to do the dirty work of even bigger forces that work here in the United States, which is why we have to widen the scope of who's really behind this. And they will use Bibi as their sacrificial Lee Harvey Oswald. They will do that. And they'll be like, oh my gosh, guys, all this stuff happening. It's this crazy guy over here, Bibi. It's all it is.
That's AOC and Bernie. The most progressive people are going to do that.
Absolutely.
I mean, to Mia's point, we're currently in the moment now, Mark, like you said, like it's so out in the open and it's so blatant in your face, this evil that is like deteriorating the shit out of Israel. But at the same time, it's exposing the crap out of the Western world too. When Mia said like Trump essentially is now, and all of us Palestinians knew this. Omar, I'm looking at you directly. We knew that when Trump was going to be elected, which we pretty much knew the entire time that shit was going to happen because of what Biden was doing, we weren't happy. It's not like we were happy about it. We knew what Trump would become. And that is essentially like what we're seeing right now. He is hyper speeding, literally like catapulting the empire's fall at this very moment. It is absurd what is happening, like in terms of economically, just civilly, domestically, what he's doing to our country. But it's all specifically related to what he's doing externally, internationally, from wars to, funding literally the most terrorist non-state on this planet, Israel. Like it's so fast now what's happening. What Biden started is now just in a faster form with Trump, and in the most stupid way possible, that like everybody is now starting to wake up, even like his own supporters. You got Trump MAGA heavy people jumping on screen being like, what the fuck is going on? Like, why is our money going to Israel when we are all struggling? Why are the Hill people literally, I was just talking to my friends that were affected by the hurricane in North Carolina and South Carolina, being like, the whole entire region was like, what the fuck is going on? Why are we getting screwed right now when we're seeing literally billions of dollars coming from my own town and my own state to Israel in this like absurd amount? So like those are the small things that are, I think, the semi lights at the end of the tunnel, but it's at the expense of our massive murder of our people. But it's at the same time exposing this to the world and something I've never seen in my lifetime. Me and Ahmad and all of us in the pro-Palestine movement that have been doing this for so damn long, have never seen this in our lifetime. Like, this is such a massive scale to the point where Republican, Democrat, Independent, whoever the hell you are, is now very, very open-eyed to what is happening and actually voicing it out loud. It's something where it's never happened before. So it's the only positive thing I'll like really tease out from a silver lining perspective. But it's the sick part is it's at the cost of our people. So
yeah, I agree. It's a great way of putting it. It's a catch-22. It is a cost of, you know, hundreds of thousands of lives, but it's one of their greatest fuck ups is they relied so heavily on Hasbara propaganda, and they thought that they had captured the culture of the United States, which they did for so long. But I feel like they put their hand in the cookie jar, and they're trying to grab so many cookies at the same time that they're driving people on the right towards this movement, which that's going to be a huge watershed of support on the pro-Palestinian side that they're not ready for. And I feel like it's because they got too greedy, they moved too fast, and they're too confident in their strategy and their control and their Hasbro, you know.
And you know, some of their lies were so ridiculous, and it was so easy to make like a comedic skit out of it. Like, do you guys remember the, you know, There Is a List? And then there was that skit that came out where he was talking about, oh, this is my wife, Theresa List. And so, I mean, that got so popular that that people are creating like these comedy skits out of like Israeli lies. And so that's a great way to kind of like push like, hey, you cannot trust this country whatsoever. These are the lengths that they will stoop to in order to justify, you know, killing hundreds of thousands of people, because that's essentially what is at stake here. But I mean, unfortunately, the only way to dress it up nicely to get people to fucking listen is to make them laugh about it. So, okay, they let it be that way. But yeah, I mean, it's so ridiculous that sometimes it's pretty funny. But I hope that maybe we can use like more comedy to get around like to more people, but it's almost so ridiculous that you can't not talk about it.
I mean, you brought up a good point. Comedy, we underestimate its value in protesting and in activism. Comedy is such a key that can unlock so many minds. It's actually one of the most effective tools of fighting the powers that be since like for thousands of years. You know, satire has always been a weapon against empire. And the reason why is because comedy is a way of telling the truth using exaggerated means and using the I guess the exaggerated clowniness of empire and putting it in skits. Like you got to think about the amazing social media influencers who have pushed this needle so far using their comedic skills. Like, you can just think of all the comedians that you see making satires, making skits, and doing stand-up comedy. It's insane. And people don't realize that is sometimes it's the only effective tool, because Americans are geared towards entertainment. We're all about entertainment. Make me laugh, make me happy. And when you can package up a message into comedy, it's priceless, especially on the American scene. We're not like Europeans, where we actually like care about like the details in the academic data of it. No, we like football. We like Netflix. So when you convert protesting and activism into that section of the brain that is most activated in Americans more than anywhere else in the world, you found one of the keys to reach people. So yeah, good point.
I was gonna say Q in Omar, he's the meme king. This is the time.
Exactly.
Man.
All right, Omar. We finally got down to Omar. Where are you at? There you are. Okay. Omar, I love his content. He's a political content creator from Al Abbasiyah. Am I saying that right? Al Abbasiyah?
Yeah.
Jaffa, who currently lives in so-called Canada, educating on key Palestinian history and current events, serving sarcasm and dry humor to challenge those who deny its truth. Providing levity to an otherwise horrifying situation and combating misinformation with grounded logic. One quote that pretty much sums him up is, born to be a Palestinian introvert, forced to take on literal Nazis on earth. So What's up, Omar? Pretty annoyed that you didn't come down to Chicago to meet up with us, but
Yeah, unfortunately I couldn't make it, but yeah, I don't know. Yeah, that last quote pretty much sums me up. Like, I'm pretty much an introvert, but fuck, forced to take on literal Nazis. Fucking, yeah. Honestly, one thing that I want to draw people's attention to is like what happens in Palestine, right? And all of all that's happening there and all the weaponry that's being used and everything that's being tested, it's being perfected there, but it's, slowly going to make its way back. And we see that with like the AI robot dog or the AI robot dogs, right? With the AI assault rifles on them, right? They're using those in Gaza. They're US weapons, but they're being battle tested there so that they can be brought to America. And with the deportations and stuff, right? Like that's happening in America, but that's going to make its way to Canada if Canada elects a conservative leader. He's already talking about deportations and anti-Israel demonstrations, hate speech, whatever. Significant financial penalties, prison time for permanent residents and Canadian citizens. So, everything just eventually it's gonna make its way back to us, right? Yeah.
yeah. Somebody in the comments just said the Palestine Laboratory. It's a great book. It's basically about how Gaza and Palestine as a whole, besides, and this is not reducing it to just this, but it is very much a laboratory for what they plan on doing to other populations around the world, which is why you should probably fucking care, because it is coming to a town near you eventually. It's just a matter of them getting around to it. So the Palestine Laboratory is written by an author who I believe he's Australian, who did a lot of research about how the technologies used in Gaza right now very much are they're beta tests, they're prototypes. So many of the drones that have automatic machine guns on them, that have different sensors on them, they're being used for the first time as beta test on the Palestinians. And there's a reason why. It is coming here. It's going to be at local police departments. It's already here. We're already seeing those technologies, but it's going to be one of the, like, we hear these libertarians and rednecks who brag about how I'm armed. I got a whole closet full of guns in case the government gets tyrannical. God damn it. Ain't no way coming from me. Well, because they're sleeping on Palestine, that technology that's being used on Palestinians is going to catch all of the Americans who think that they're prepped for a bad day off guard because they were sleeping on Palestine. So this is a point. The reason why I'm bringing this up is because I think this is something that you could probably use, or at least a point that you can drive home with Americans who are very patriotic, and their Second Amendment, they like to be prepped. Like myself, I'm a Second Amendment guy. I'm a prepper as well. I'm a survivalist. If you can start using that, like the Palestine Laboratory as an example, and bringing that point home about it, I believe that will reach a certain demographic in this country that if they start taking notice, it can provide solidarity for Palestine, and help gear us activists stateside for what might be coming down the pipeline as Trump weaponizes government law enforcement agencies against us, So anyways,
I was also gonna say though too, like when we talk about the Palestine Laboratory, like you can even draw the parallel to Congo because Israel, what they do is they like Elbit Systems, for example, right? Like they test drones in Congo, and those same drones are then used in Gaza, right? But they also like use certain tactics on the Congolese where they train the rebel groups to use certain tactics, and then they perfect those tactics, and then they take them and use them on Palestinians as well, right? So it's Palestine and Congo, like they're very interconnected, right? When it comes to who's, you know, perpetrating what, right? Like Israel is trying to resource plunder Congo, and causing instability. Said I lost connection. Am I still there?
You're still here. Yeah, you just went out for a
Okay,
little
yeah.
bit.
Yeah, so they're causing instability by funding like these proxies in Congo, you know, so that they can benefit from the resources, but the weapons manufacturing like Elbit Systems, they you know, gain from Congo as well. And yeah, like I said, they test a whole bunch of things on Congo and the Congolese people so that they can go and use it on the Palestinians too. So it kind of works both ways, like things that are tested in Congo and Palestine, like they're all gonna make their way to us eventually. Um, you know, and it's unfortunate because, you know, you think when are people gonna wake up? Are they gonna wake up once it's already here? And you know, when they're employing all these tactics, like what are we gonna do then, right? Um, when you can't even rise up against your government, right? Like if they're gonna lock away anybody that challenges the government, or if they're gonna disappear you and kidnap you off the street, like when do people say enough is enough and rise up, right?
You know, the executive order that Trump passed about making was it an executive order? Remind me, where he doesn't want any Palestinians immigrating from the West Bank or Gaza. Remember that? That was one of his first points that he made during his campaign, is that he wants to make sure that nobody from Gaza immigrates to the United States. You guys remember that?
Mhm.
Besides the fact that, you know, he's racist and, you know, he's trying to signal to his Zionist buddies in Israel and Wall Street, why else do you think he would make that such a top priority of keeping people from Palestine out of the United States? Can you guys guess? 'Cause I'll tell you what I suspect. One of the
Well, we
reasons.
see a lot of Palestinians helping us out during Black Lives Matter. They would show us the police tactics that the Israelis had taught our own police, and they would show us how to counter them.
Exactly. The people of Gaza, obviously by now, are the best survivalists that ever walked this planet as of now. They do not want that knowledge and experience to reach the United States, which is something that maybe could also be a hook for people who are not fully tuned into the pro-Palestinian movement, is that the amount of inoculation of the tactics used by Israel would completely change Americans' perspective on law enforcement tactics here that will eventually be used against us. So that was my suspicion, you know, on that.
NYPD has an office in
Tel Aviv.
occupied Palestine. Yeah, like they, you know, train them right with the tactics. Like they perfect those tactics on us, and then they teach the NYPD. The NYPD then uses those tactics, you know, during encampments, for example, right? When they're brutalizing protesters and stuff like that, because they're gonna crush dissent. Like that's what they do, you know, in occupied Palestine. Like if you try to rise up against Netanyahu and his government, they do this exact same tactics.
Yep, exactly.
Well,
and
and the
they're
other
proud of
thing
it.
is, if there's more Palestinian people who live in the United States, you know, these are more people who are going to give testimony against Israel, you know, and prove the Israeli crimes. And that is the information that they're trying to suppress. They want to have control over the narrative that they're the victims. But if your neighbors have had, you know, one-on-one experience because something happened to their mother, father, sister, cousin, then that's really hard to disseminate. You know, they want to keep it as far removed from American society as possible. And that's how they've gotten away with it.
Here the other day.
No, I was gonna
Go ahead.
go ahead, Amar.
I was just gonna say there's a protest here the other day, and it was on the bridge, right? And we had the bridge blocked, and all the cops came, and I don't know. I seen a video posted. It was posted onto a page from my city, and basically the comments were like, "Deport them back to Palestine," and I'm like, "Fuck! I wish. Like, send me there right now. I'll go right now. My bag's already packed. Send me on a flight." Like, I don't know. Canadians, when it comes to Palestinians, like it's give or take, right? So
Yeah, I mean, I completely agree with both of you guys because, like, I think we're at a moment where, I mean, we all know Trump is just a racist piece of shit as a whole. Like, it's not just even like the Palestinians only, but we're the primo target at this very moment because of the loudness of us, because of everything that's happening and how we're basically in every single city making noise. But you guys just saw that ridiculous psychopath Caroline Leavitt or whatever her name is just say that even literally on a podium, she said this out loud that natural born citizens of the United States, like that concept is unconstitutional, and which is absurd to me because I literally just posted this right before the call. Is that they're basically saying the Constitution now is unconstitutional, which is the most insane thing I've ever heard. But they specifically said that, and they're doing that in order to target those that are non-white people that are born in the United States that are fighting for things like immigrant freedom, or are anti-immigration or pro-Palestinian, or all of the causes that they're truly fighting for, and Black Lives Matter, whatever it is. Whoever is against the oligarchy, against the government, against what they're doing to the people that matter and people that have a voice, those are the people that they're gunning after right now at this very moment. And when they say things like, if you're a natural born citizen, if you are an American born citizen, they would like to deport you if you go against what they believe in. This is the world we live in now. It's complete and utter blatant fascism on a scale we've never seen before. And this is she is literally saying this on a podium to the press. So that just happened.
Two U.S. citizens actually were deported. It was a mother that got deported with her two newborn children. They were twins. And so she wasn't able to make it to her immigration court date because she went into labor. She had two preemie children. So they redid the appointment. ICE came and picked her up and deported her with her two U.S. citizen newborn babies.
Well, we're entering the phase of this live, which I titled the workshop. So now that we've had a very long section of introductions and sidebars, which were all fantastic, this section is going to be for brainstorming. And this is where it's going to get a little chaotic, and I'm okay with that. If we talk over each other, we cut each other off, whatever, we'll see what happens. But the point of this is to analyze where we're at and then synthesize what we can be doing better. So starting with the movement itself, first, the progress that we're seeing. Obviously I know we feel guilty celebrating our W's. I get it. But we have to, because we have to set landmarks, and we need it for the morale boost, because there's been a lot of landmarks that we've made. First of all, the pro-Palestinian movement has accomplished the miracle of changing the world that was a world that was pro-Israel once upon a time for 70 plus years. And overnight, the world hates Israel. That is a miracle that I still can't fathom that to this day, but it's happened. So we have to celebrate that W. And of course the BDS movement. I remember on TikTok lives when I was debating Zionist, and they were laughing at the idea of BDS. They're like, boycotting doesn't work. And they're just like totally dismissing it. But we've seen what are the effects that we've literally seen of BDS. The Israeli economy is doing so bad, all businesses are shutting down. 40,000, which is a lot for Israel because it's such a small country. The only reason why Israel is surviving is because of our taxpayer money. Without our taxpayer money, Israel would collapse tomorrow. If we cut them off today, tomorrow they'd be rioting in the street and eating each other alive, right? So that's a W. And besides that, I would like to hear some W's from you guys that you guys have noticed, because we need that. The audience needs it for a morale boost, and we have to set landmarks. So whoever wants to go first, go for it.
Well, one of the W's, like for me, and like this is, I think, the biggest W of all, like I remember I was looking in my camera roll the other day and I seen a video from 2015 at a protest. There was only 20 of us there, maybe 20. Um, and just seeing how many thousands and millions of people have woken up now. Like, yeah, I get that, we want to be so much farther and utilizing all these people to do more damage and not more damage, but to just more further along, right? Like to progress more. But um yeah, like it's just seeing how many people have woken up, right? Like, yeah, there's millions more that are still asleep, but it's just seeing how many people are on our side that see the truth, that know the truth, and see Israel for what Israel is, right? Like that is a W in itself, and I think that like we have to celebrate those W's whenever they happen because that keeps again morale boosted, and people need to one of my things is like I don't consume the trauma stuff on a daily. Like I look and I see. Sometimes I don't even look because I just I have to look at like the positives too, right? Like that keeps me in the game. Like yeah, sometimes I take a break and sometimes I don't post on social media, but like I said this probably in November of 2023 or December of 2023, like social media is the tip of the iceberg. There's a whole bunch of other stuff, right? Like there's the protests, there's the boycotting, there's the BDS, like there's so much more that needs to be done outside of social media. You can educate everybody, but if people are being educated, but not doing anything with that, then nothing's really being done, right? Like people are just witnessing and not doing anything. But yeah, I just think celebrating whatever wins come our ways is important.
Yeah, I mean, I think the easiest tangible win I can bring up right now is like Mia and Bree right now, post October 7th folk over here are like some of the best vocal voices that we have here. Like that's what I'm seeing across the board, but I'm just speaking to them here specifically because they're right in front of my face and some of my favorite people of all time. But I think in general, like having people that are not Palestinian, right, speaking so knowledgeably on this topic, and Lou obviously killing it always, but I mean, I'm just saying like specifically like post October 7th people are actually jumping in the comments, fighting the Zionists, fighting these psychopaths coming onto these comments with straight up facts. It's the most beautiful thing I personally am seeing and reading across the board. And that alone, I'm not going to lie, like most of my followers are not, I'm going to say like a majority of my followers are not Palestinian or not Arab or not Muslim or any of that. They're like genuinely from all over the world of every single walk of life, every single religion. And, people of the Jewish faith jumping in and saying, yo, I used to be heavy Zionist. Yo, I used to be of that mentality. And like watching your content, watching Mia or Bree or Lou or Ahmad or Mark and saying like, we've learned so much from you guys that I know now what is the truth. And now I am fighting for you. That is the most beautiful thing I've personally ever seen in my entire life. And I'm telling you right now, I've been a part of this and been vocal like a lot, where I always feel like I'm like yelling into the void. But this is the first time of my entire life where I don't feel like it's like truly a void. The only void that we're yelling at are the psychopaths in power right at this moment. Now it's just like them trying to turn a blind eye to us or not listen to us or not act on what we're saying. But it's the entire world. That's the thing. Like that's why we have to continue to move. Like being, complacent or lazy or fatigued in this movement at this very moment is the perfect thing for them to win. This is exactly what they want. They want us to continuously see children dying every single fucking day to the point where we feel normalized and feel like that's it. We have to give up, hands up in the air. And that's the one thing that I personally am seeing. People are not sitting down. They're not standing back. They're not, getting lazy. They're actually pushing forward, and we're getting a little bit louder. And we need to now, what I tried to like start with is that we need to be as loud as humanly fucking possible now, to the point of like massive disruption. It's not anymore. It's not walking down the streets anymore. It's now we need to see like the appropriate level, like PAL action right now is doing some good shit right now. If you follow them, Pal Action is like disrupting on a crazy level, getting arrested left and right. But they know exactly what's at stake. They're throwing their bodies on the line, and you know, mass incarceration type style things right now. That is like really going to push our movement forward. So I mean, definitely celebrate the big win, these big and small wins. I think the wins are the biggest thing right now. Is tangibly we're seeing Israel collapse heavily. Economically, they're getting fucked right now. No business that's going to start at this very moment, any small business or large business that ever wanted to think about international collaboration or international partnership, they will never think about Israel now because of all the red tape and all the, you know, red flags that come with it. So as a result, those little things are going to chip away at their entire ethnocracy that they have going on right now. And it's an apartheid driven bullshit ass country that we know is slowly on the decline and spiraling out of fucking control, where they are literally only tied to the racist people in our world, and then the whole world sees it. So that is the biggest tangible thing that we see. Slow. It's going to be a long game, and we got to continue the long game. Do not slow up is my biggest piece of advice.
Exactly. And one of the main reasons for that is this is going to be the least fascist year that we have for the rest of our lives if we don't do something. Everything is spiraling out of control. We're seeing a significant amount of increases in loss of rights, in loss of citizenship, especially for pro-Palestinian people throughout the United States, but also ethnic minorities, also racial minorities. One of the things that we need to realize right now is that this isn't the most fascist that the United States has ever been. This is the least fascist that the United States is going to be if we don't do something now. One of the big wins, obviously, you know, we're seeing a lot of things going on with Israel losing a significant amount of money, and that's wonderful. That's fine. The biggest win for me is just a silly, sentimental, personal anecdote, and that is how many people have started talking to Palestinians and listening to them. How many people are talking to families in Gaza and hearing them, actually empathizing with them, checking in on them, seeing if they're okay. I mean, you don't have like a whole heck of a lot of people making videos for Palestinian families, but you do have a whole heck of a lot of people that are in contact with Palestinian families, actively talking to them on a regular basis, sharing recipes, sharing coping skills, talking about their families, learning Arabic. I mean, all of these things are huge wins that I could not have imagined in 2018. All of these are huge wins that I couldn't have imagined, you know, when I was 8 years old and I was watching, you know, all of the bombs being dropped on Gaza in 2008. I mean, everything that's been happening over the last 18 months has been incredible. And none of these are our wins, by the way. This is all wrought by Israel because they have shown the world their true colors, and people are starting to question the narrative. They're starting to investigate. They're starting to look into it, and they're not liking what they see. They're starting to hear the voices of the people on the ground, and they're starting to really internalize their struggle. And that I would love to take credit for, but that wasn't us. That was them destroying themselves in the process.
I love you, Lou. I wish I had your eloquence, man.
There's an ex-Supreme Court justice in occupied Palestine that basically he said that Israel is headed into a civil war, and I think that's a W. Like, let them collapse from the inside, right? Like, that's how I envision it, right? Like, their businesses are collapsing. They're, you know, part of that is because of Yemen, right? Like their economic blockade in the Red Sea, them upholding international law by punishing and preventing the crime of genocide, right? Like, that's why the port of Eilat declared bankruptcy, because they weren't receiving containers and shipments. It just was costing them too much, right? So yeah, like it's gonna come to that point where they're leading themselves to their own downfall, and you know, I love to be alive to see it. So
yeah, I've been saying this since pretty much since the beginning. I've been telling people that the downfall of Israel is not going to be any hard power. It's going to the way that Israel is going to fall is internally. You cannot have a toxic hateful culture like that. And I've seen it up front firsthand. You know, it was one of the things that shocked me when I went to Israel as a Zionist, and I realized how mentally unhinged they are. I was like, you know, your brochure Zionist. I was the brochure Zionist where, you know, you read the brochure and it's like, oh, it's a safe place for Jews, you know, to come and live and, you know, inherit their ancestral homeland. But then when I started to immerse myself in Israeli culture a little bit, I was like, dude, everybody in Israel has this, they feel like they seem like they're isolated. Like every individual person feels like they're isolated, like they're an island, and they're confused and they're lonely and they have mental health issues. And the only thing that links them together is the hatred of Palestinians and the paranoia of the outside world. That's the only social fabric they have. And so when I saw this, I'm like, this is a sad way to live. But on the flip side, when I would go visit when I would hang out with my Palestinian friends and go to Palestinian villages, there's so much that connects them culturally. It's the food, it's the humor, it's the religion, it's the faith, it's the interreligious experience, it's the farming, the agriculture, the sunshine, like the sadness. I mean, so much connects the Palestinian fabric of their culture, and they can make lemonade out of any lemons, and that comes from deep rooted things. So when this whole thing popped up after October 7th, I'm like, that type of society cannot last, especially if the world starts turning against it, because there'll be no way to hide. There'll be no way, there's nowhere to hide from your conscience, because the world will be constantly reminding you. If you're an Israeli and you go to Berlin to go party, guess what? You're gonna have 50 people in that nightclub who knows what your country did, and they'll be looking at you that way. Psychologically, Israelis aren't gonna be able to handle that, and they will eventually go after each other, and they'll just internally collapse, just like Nazi Germany. That is the pattern. Anytime you have a fascist, racist, genocidal state, it's the psychology that causes it to crumble. The Nazis crumbled because they were so hyped up on methamphetamines. And they were so hyped up on their own mental their own mental problems that they started making mistakes. And there's infighting. It was Hitler getting egotistical and making strategical mistakes that led his armies into defeats. That's what eventually crumbled in. It's internally, it's psychological. So, anyways, sorry about that tangent. So, and one thing I wanted to say, as far as a W, is that what Palestine did has done, starting on October 7th, it pulled at the thread that Israel is the thread that's connected to corruption around the world. So now that the whole world is waking up to the evils of Israel, they're now questioning their leaders and institutions about why they're supporting Israel. What does Israel have on you? Are they bribing you? Do you have interests? Are you putting money over human lives? So by the Palestinians pulling that thread, the fabric started to just loosen up and completely unravel, not just for the Americans, but for Europeans and Asian countries. The Muslim world is coming unraveled as far as their faith and their leadership, as we've seen, the Jordanian government. Mo, you talked about the Egyptian government, Saudi Arabia, the UAE. The populations of these Arab Muslim countries are waking up to the fact that their leaders are corrupt by going along with this. Who else could have done that type of one shot in the face revelation of all the corruption across the world? Only Palestine could have done that by pulling Israel as the thread of the social fabric of this planet and the power structure. So I'm glad we delved into some W's. We needed that. The audience needed to hear those things. Now, let's talk about what we're lacking in this movement. Let's start self-critiquing ourselves. What have we been doing wrong? What are some lessons that we've learned along the way in these 500 plus days that you guys have noticed? Whoever wants to go first.
I'm just going to say, our big voices are slowing down, in my opinion. whether you're Palestinian, pro-Palestinian, Arab, Muslim, whatever you are. I've been seeing like the content slowing down a lot. I know that we're social content creators at the moment. That's not enough. I do think that the social media movement is probably one of the most important movements on like genuinely we have at the moment, because of obvious reasons, which are silencing our journalists, silencing the people on the ground in Gaza, killing them off. They literally send us the content. They genuinely send it directly to me, or directly to Omar, or directly to Lou. Lou, I know, corresponds a lot with the journalists on the ground too, like straight up. So we, as a social media movement, need to be as loud as humanly possible, louder than we've ever been in any single moment of our previous days, right? So, but I am seeing like a slight slowing down in that front. I don't know if it's because of fatigue. I don't know if it's because Meta is really hitting us hard with the suppression and cancellations and suspensions, expulsions, whatever they call it. It's pretty sick what Meta is doing, obviously, but at the same time, we just got to keep moving forward at the moment from a social media perspective. On the flip side, from an action perspective, I did bring this up earlier. We need to be a lot stronger than we've ever been. I don't think we are strong. We are there yet. I know that like a lot of people, like for example, like in my city of Jersey City, they're still advertising flag raising of Israel and advertising it as celebrating 77 years of independence, right? Like the fact that, and in Jersey City, I'm telling you right now, just like speaking for my city, touts itself as one of the most diverse cities in the entire nation, right? And that is maybe in fact true. And that's why when they posted that post on social media, they got flooded so hard by pro-Palestinian content, like got ravaged, like completely embarrassed the shit out of Israel. Every single Zionist that was in their comments, it was like 800 to like 6 Palestinian content to Israeli. But from that moment, they suppressed all of the comments. They removed all of the comments actually to make it seem like that they're getting engagement, and they kept the post up, and they're going to continue with that flag raising of a genocidal, holocausting, non-terrorist state right now. So that alone is like they have the audacity, and this was a city sponsored post, right? By Jersey City, like NJ posted this. The audacity and the caucasity and the confidence they have in actually moving forward with something like this, with everything we've witnessed to this day, means we're not hitting hard enough. Like we need to hit them harder than ever and make them really feel it. And I think it's embarrassing those in power, getting under their skin, making them as uncomfortable as humanly possible every single fucking day. They should not be able to like walk a single step without feeling uncomfortable at this moment. Because they're literally like catering to a genocide. They are sponsoring a genocide. So we need to go hit harder. And again, it has to be at the embassies, at the UN headquarters. It needs to be at the powers that be that have some minor form of influence. Because clearly what we're doing is not really doing much. When again, like Lou and many of us have said before we hopped on this call, where we were witnessing literal charred children, like straight up burning to ashes as we speak. So the fact that we're still witnessing that to this very day is sickening to me, and that means we gotta push harder.
Yeah, and I would love to reiterate some of those points. We are definitely seeing a lot of pushback from Meta. When the Baptist Hospital was being targeted, we saw Meta specifically target Anas al-Sharif, who, if you went to his profile, because he was one of the first reporters on the ground reporting on the impending strike, they were given 15 minutes in order to evacuate all of the patients. And the second his video went up, all of a sudden, hundreds of people could no longer see his profile whatsoever. Other people were reporting that they were seeing his profile, but that he had never posted anything whatsoever. And then other people were getting messages saying that the video itself had been deleted by the user, so they couldn't see it. And this is one of the ways that Meta has been pushing everybody down. We're seeing Eye on Palestine getting 20 to 50% fewer views than usual. And it's not just coming from fatigue. I mean, obviously, everybody is exhausted. They haven't been drinking enough water. They haven't been making sure to keep their cortisol levels low enough to be able to handle seeing this kind of stuff. But at the same time, we're also seeing a significant amount of pushback, not just from Meta, but also Twitter and TikTok. Pretty much all of these platforms are trying to shut everybody down. But one of the biggest things that I'm noticing that we're failing at right now is encouraging non-Palestinians to speak. All right. And this is incredibly important because when it comes to being a Zionist, there are no qualifications for that. You can be literally anybody. They don't require you have a master's degree in Middle East history. They just let you be a Zionist. They don't require that you be Jewish. They don't require that you be Israeli. They just let you be a Zionist. And because of that, you see Zionists from, across multiple cultures. You see a significant amount of Zionists, and they're all willing to go on the internet and start talking and start really going at it in support of Israel. But because we weaponize, deference politics has been weaponized so heavily against us, saying, who are you to talk about Palestine? We are ending up in a situation where a lot of people, because they come from a privileged background, are completely unwilling to stand in and say that what they're seeing is messed up, that they don't agree with how things are being done, that they see that the situation is very biased. For example, when we talk about the resistance groups, they are held in the media to a higher standard than Israel is. I mean, even Israel themselves, they will talk about how horrible it is that hostages were taken, but they themselves take hostages. And this is one of the things that we really need other people to highlight. It can't just be us coming out on the internet talking about how messed up it is, the double standards. It has to be multiple people, and we have to really encourage people, especially from privileged backgrounds, to talk now that everything's getting very fascist, now that everything's getting very dangerous, especially for people like us. I know that I am at least one person on the panel that is at risk of being deported over, what I say about this. And I know that other people, you're going to see your status as an American citizen is also going to be challenged over the coming months. So having people who are willing to use their privilege to talk about these things, to come out in support of these things and say, no, this is messed up, I support Palestine. We really need to encourage that as a group rather than discourage it.
Yeah, Lou, that's amazing that you said that, because I wanted to hop on what you just said, because we all know there's the four core arguments that they always bring up, right? Mm-hmm. We Palestinians know exactly how to argue back, right? Like very easily, right? And we're constantly saying it, but to folks that are not in tune with our movement as much as it happens, because you may not be as educated because you're just learning about it, right? But if you are learning about it, having people that are non-Palestinian speak up and against those four arguments, which is Israel has a right to defend itself, right? Push back on that, right? It's very easy to respond to that. The second one is that do you condemn the resistance? Very easy to push back on that as well. Like, would you resist if someone broke into your house? Would you fight back? That's in a very, very quick response there. What the other? What was I going to say? My God,
but hostages.
Hostages, yeah, sorry. Hostages is
I know it's late for you, Mo. I got you, man.
Yeah, dude, my brain is
melting
right now.
I appreciate
but hostages
you,
is number 3 for sure. I think that's the easiest one. They have 10,000 hostages that they have that they hold, and they've been doing this since well before October 7th. We have absurd amount of footage of children getting incarcerated, and I hate using that word, but it's
administrative detention.
They're administrative detention, being tortured, as we just saw. Ahmed Ben Nasser kid just got out, who got arrested since he was 13 years old, 10 years of being a hostage, and we got to call it like it is. So that's the easiest thing to bring up. So it's just being able to dispel those core arguments from those that are not Palestinian. You guys having the confidence to being able to speak up on our behalf in that regard, whether it be on podcasts, in Western news media, if you get pulled into an interview, or just in general conversation with your friends and family, that goes a very long way for us. So I definitely agree with you there, Lou.
That's actually a really great like video idea. If you just like make it really simple, like a video with that has like 6 or 7 questions on there, and kind of just to dispel them, like what would I say in my position as a non-Jewish, non-Arab, non-Muslim person? Like how would I answer these questions? Because that's what these Zionists do. They corner somebody like, oh, well, you've never been to Israel, you don't know. It's like, well, I've never been to Germany either. Does that mean I can't condemn the Holocaust? I mean, what are you trying to say? Like,
Yeah. It's such a
I think we
stupid
need
argument.
like a more pal action level activism, right? Like we need people to start putting their bodies on the line. I don't know. It's like the peaceful demonstrations are good and like they need to keep happening, but like these peaceful means never get us far. And like as Palestinians, we know that, right? Like we've seen the Great March of Return and Palestinians protesting peacefully without violence, and then what happened to them, right? Like them being shot in the kneecaps and being there being so many amputees from that. And why did they shoot the kneecaps? So that people would lose their leg and lose their limb so that they can't have a normal life after that. And it was to like instill fear into other Palestinians that, oh, if you go and do this, this is what's going to happen to you, kind of thing, right? Which is why resistance is necessary. So I think that people need to step up the game, right? Like, Hussam Shabbat, he asked people to besiege the Zionist embassies, and people ignored that, to be honest. And I think those are the type of things that need to happen. Like, if there's like weapons manufacturing depots or whatever, like that's what they do in the UK, right? That's the type of activism we need to see now, because we're talking to them through these peaceful demonstrations, we're signing petitions, we're calling our reps, but they're just ignoring us, right? Like they're straight up telling us we don't care. And then if we're protesting once a week on a weekend, right? They know we're gonna show up. We're gonna show up for an hour. We're gonna go back home, and then we'll be back in a week. So they have another week to conduct their bullshit, but we'll be back and we'll say a few things, and then we'll leave again, and the cycle will just continue. So um they don't care. Like these are their methods. Peaceful protesting and all of that is it's the West's method of pushback.
And we
you
saw
know,
that in Portland. Basically, what they were trying to do was they were trying to drain the city of money. And ultimately, yes, they did end up draining the city of money. They ended up costing the city millions of dollars and having to hire on extra police, having to have the police work extra hours. But ultimately, it didn't actually affect any meaningful change because it didn't cost them enough.
but I really liked what they did. Those ladies, messing with the manufacturing centers, and those bitches are bad. I mean, that's all I got to say about it. They messed with like, I forgot, it was like a department where they were creating chips or something like that, parts like the F-16s, and supposedly these were centers where they were supposed to be dust-free centers, and they broke into the vents, and I don't know what they were shooting in there, foam, something, but that made me so proud. Ugh.
Yeah, and I think like global
That was
strikes too,
protest
right?
porn for me. Straight protest porn. I love videos like that. I mean, not advocating for violence.
Global
not,
strikes.
yeah,
That's a
of
really
course not.
Even
Never.
global strikes, like I think they work, but I just think they need it to be more long term. Like we're so past the 1 day global strike, we need at least like a week or more than that, right? Like for there to be long term economic damage. Because if they lose money in 1 day, I'm sure they'll gain it back, right? It's a capitalism, and the whole system is built on capitalism, right? So they'll have ways of profiting back, but when they see long-term economic damage, like COVID, there was a lot of long-term economic damage from that, and the government had to step in and subsidize all these businesses. At least here in Canada, they had to, right? And start bailing businesses out. So, that's one thing, like the general, what was it, the general strike or whatever? And it has to be like strategic, like you need what is it, like airport employees not to show up to work. You need railroad employees not to show up to work. You need port employees to not show up. Like hitting those centers, right? Like the trade distribution, where a lot of the money is coming in. I feel like if people just walked off the job and didn't show up for a week or, went on strike, like that would make a very big impact.
And that's not to discourage like any random person from participating, because just one single adult U.S. citizen participating in a global strike cost the United States economy $741 for one day.
And another idea that I had that I'd never have really spoken about was the banks. I mean, it's not too difficult to actually change out your bank. There's so many credit unions that people could switch to. But at the beginning of this panel that we had, I think the conversation about intersectionality is really important too. I mean, how do we get enough people to participate to do this? So, I mean, because if everybody left their Chase bank account and went to their local credit unions, Chase is responsible for, I'm sorry, my king cat, she won't leave me alone. Chase is responsible for investing money in illegal settlements in the West Bank. So, I mean, if we went like one by one and just said, this hit these financial institutions, I mean, that would make a huge impact. I mean, let's just start with one, Chase Bank. And if we want intersectionality, let's find other reasons. Like, how can we encourage the Latino community? What have they done there? How can we encourage the Black community to kind of participate with us? And there needs to be some cohesiveness. I know I've spoken to Code Pink, Jewish Voice for Peace. They all have like business meetings and stuff like that. So there would be a possibility where these groups can collectively at their business meetings kind of come together. Here in San Diego, we have this activist SD group where different activists, they come together and, we talk about our ideas and make presentations and stuff like that. And these are activists from everywhere, animals rights groups, women's rights groups. So if we have more of those intersectionality, like activism groups that, message, the president of Code Pink and Jewish Voice for Peace and all of these other, and have that collectiveness to be like, hey, everybody's going to be out of Wells Fargo next month. I think that would really hit them hard.
Like the Latino community, I know they're big on Coca-Cola, right? And I know it was an opportunity, like when Coca-Cola called ICE on their employees and stuff, right? Like that's like the perfect opportunity to like be like, hey, like this is a time for all of us to boycott and tag team together. Because Coca-Cola obviously is doing their thing in Palestine, right? But yeah, with the Latino community as well. So like that's important that we draw the effect it has on both parties, right? But I don't know how to get in contact with those like Code Pink and Jewish Voice for Peace and like there's certain things too that like organizations that I'll work with or people that I'll work with, like I have to know their stance on certain things, and like that's one thing that gets in the way, right? But yeah, no, you have a good point.
Yeah, but sometimes just like putting like feelers out there, just reaching out, somebody always knows somebody, and everybody on this panel has, enough contacts where all you have to do is just be like, hey, I'm looking for blank. And there'll be 20 people to be like, hey, I have a contact for you.
Yeah. And I just wanted to bring up on the flip side of things, of like the non-protest, non-boycott side of things, the root cause of a lot of what we're seeing and like the normalization of everything is the systemic dehumanization of our people and like just our people as a whole, that we need to address head on at all times. Like, and it's not just to come from us. Again, to Lou's point, needs to come from others that are non-Palestinian. And it's the saddest thing for me to say as a Palestinian, but we need to be humanized as fucking people, man, because the fact that people are seeing the atrocities that we see daily and are just like, whatever. We see it enough. We see it every single day. But like, if you imagine that happening in your city right now, in your neighborhood, just like kid after kid after kid after kid after kid dying in front of your eyes, losing limbs, losing heads, losing, their lives and their entire families, their entire fucking lineages are being wiped out in your neighborhood, in New York City, Philly, Chicago, wherever you live. Like that in itself, you need to like flip the script on them, show them a hypothetical that like pertains to them. It's a put yourself in their shoes type moment, where you need to like pull at their heartstrings in that sense. It's the saddest thing for me to say, but you gotta like, that's basically like how I've been doing it since the get-go on my end. It's really mind numbing that I have to even do that. But we need to start to like just humanize us a little bit more. Western media still to this day is dehumanizing the shit out of us, continuously demonizing us, making us out to be some sort of enemy of every single Western country in our world. But we all know, I think the entire world knows at this point that's not the truth. But you need to like be vocal about it. It's not just coming to us and being like, oh my God, I feel sorry for your people. It's no, call anybody out that tries to dehumanize us in any capacity, whether it be like a systemic issue within the Western media or a person that you're friends with or is in your family. In a sense, you got to be very vocal about that kind of stuff and humanize us to the point where it's sickening to see what we're seeing, and make sure people know that.
I have another really crazy idea. You know how they send out like those mass emails, and I don't know how these sons of bitches get my email to send out like junk emails and stuff like that, or even junk mail, like snail mail. Like who gets those addresses? Like what company has that information? Like could our movement like send out like mass emails like, hey, this is what happened today in Gaza? Like somebody has to have that information somewhere. Like somebody.
Well, Israel has a lot of, they've monopolized digital marketing companies in a large way. You'd be surprised how many digital marketing companies that are used in our everyday cyber sphere in the United States are owned by Israeli companies, or at least they're a gatekeeper for American companies to use. So one thing that Israel has been really busy at in the past 20 years is making sure that they have a monopoly on the digital sphere, all the way from installing former 8200 operatives in the upper echelons of Meta and X and fill in the blank, whatever social media company, they install former 8200 operatives in these for this very reason, to monopolize, to get your email, to accumulate that data so that they can send it out. So they've been really good at that. When we were kind of ignoring the value of having these of owning the gates of these digital avenues that people communicate, they were busy, and that's where we slept. That's where we as Americans slept on it. So that's how they're able to do that. So getting a hold of that type of thing, well, we'd be going head to head against former 8200 operatives. But the beauty of the pro-Palestinian movement is we are so diverse with so much skill. You can just look at this panel right here and look at the amount of skill on this one panel and expand that out to millions of people. Somebody out there might be able to do something like that. So somebody who's watching this, if you're good at that, come up with a strategy for that,
Yeah, mailing list. Let's do it. Let's
mailing
just
list, yeah.
just to unannounced people who had no questions or not curious, just throw it in their face. Like, hey, did you see like Israel's occupying like parts of Lebanon and Syria now, and they say they're not going to leave? What the fuck?
I want to talk to Brianna. Brianna, you're in the Midwest. One of my biggest frustrations throughout this whole year is I don't feel like I haven't had a finger on the pulse of the Midwest. Like I don't have that communication. I used to live in Kansas. I used to live in Oklahoma. But I don't have that connection to the Midwest anymore like I wish I did. You're in the Midwest. What are you seeing? Are you seeing changes in sentiments? Because normally the Midwest has been captivated by the evangelical, I guess the aura that surrounds evangelical culture permeates the Midwest, right? It like I know because I became a Zionist at a church in Kansas, right? Kansas City. So I know how heavy evangelicalism is in the Midwest. But are you seeing any social evolution happening regarding this topic?
Unfortunately,
don't try to hide your accent, by the way. I see you trying to do it. Just
I'm
let
not.
it out.
Unfortunately, speaking specifically where I'm living, it's not on anyone's radar. I've had a handful of conversations with people, with people in my community, and they have no idea what's going on. And this is something that I kind of go back to and remind people, especially from, many of you live in larger cities like San Diego, larger urban areas. In the rural parts of the United States, like me and fuck nowhere, Iowa, nobody knows what's going on. They really don't. So I see a lot of comments, people saying that, you have to know, like you cannot not know now. Well, that's not true at all. There are so many people who have no idea. Like I was talking to my sister today, and I had mentioned that I get olive oil from, that has come from the West Bank. Oh, that's nice. I'm like, do you know where the West Bank is? No.
Yeah.
And that's my sister. Okay. And I love her dearly, but yeah, I mean, these people don't know much really. They, outside of Fox News, I mean, I watch my lovely in-laws. They have it on a lot of the times. I don't see anything on there really. So it really here, it's a matter of people almost like canvassing. Like we have to go door to door. We have to be very intentional about having these conversations with people. It's just not on their radar. And it's unfortunate. So
it is. And it's why we have to focus our guns towards the Midwest. I have been thinking about this for a long time now. My theory is that the Midwest is the most important target for the movement. The reason being is that they are surrounded by the thickest iron wall of information regarding Palestine. Do you have layer upon layer? You got the liberalism on the East Coast and West Coast, right? That kind of protects us from revolutionary movements from the outside world in general. And then as you get in the inner core of the United States, you have evangelicalism that further protects you from revolutionary movements in the outside world. We're obviously the pro-Palestinian movement is very active on the coastal regions, all the way from New York City down to Miami, Washington, D.C., California, LA, whatever, Portland, Oregon. That's great. It's so great. But we're not hitting the heartland of America, where average Americans live. Average Americans who believe in freedom and right to self-defense and right to land sovereignty. I cannot emphasize this enough. If you live in the Midwest, you are in one of our most important stations for this fight, because if we can expand out from inner America and expand out while we're expanding in from the coastal regions, you have no idea how important that is. And this leads me to one of my points regarding the censorship and the shadow banning. I put a video out it got heavily censored. I made a video about how we can defeat the censorship and the shadow banning. It's a very simple trick, and you guys touched on it. When they go high tech, we go low tech. A simple way of circumventing the shadow ban and any type of censorship is day-to-day, person-to-person interaction. It's very simple. Go out and make fucking friends with people that you normally wouldn't talk to, people who are completely different than your culture. If you're a Palestinian, talk to a redneck. If you're an Asian, go talk to Mexicans. Start to make friends outside of your normal cultural sphere, and just normal friendship, not even activism. And then as you get to know them, you get to know 4 people at least. And I call this my 4 wins approach. Get to know 4 different people of different cultures. Get to know them well, and then share the videos. Don't rely on the reach that you have on social media, because it will get censored and they will put you in a bubble, in a quarantined algorithmic bubble, so that you're not reaching the dude who owns the beat up truck down the street who likes guns and football. You're going to have to go walk down the street and meet the guy who likes guns and football and start to have friendship with him and show him the video footage and ask them, once you've gained their friendship and you've made it very clear that you care about this topic very passionately and that you tell them why, they will become interested in it. And then they'll get linked in the algorithm, and then their friends will get linked in the algorithm through their proxy. So the easiest way to defeat the algorithm is going low tech and just making friends, not seeing this movement as just your own bubble now. Like, I get tempted to do this too, where I feel like I don't want to talk to anybody who's not in this movement. But then I have to remind myself, I was that outside guy. I was that evangelical Zionist. And if it wasn't for me walking in a room full of Palestinian dudes who were joking and just smoking hookah with them and arguing and cussing at them and pranking them and just all that good stuff and getting to know them, I would not have been enlightened to what Zionism really was. So we have to build bridges, understand that a lot of people are stupid. A lot of people are not evil deep down. They're just being fed the wrong information. For all they know, the Palestinians are the most evil people in the world because they're being taught that. And if you're being taught that and that's all the information you know, then you don't know what you have no idea what the facts would be because you automatically go on that assumption. And you can't really blame them because propaganda is so crafty. It's so meticulously formed by Israeli Hasbara, who actually petitioned and formed relationships with evangelical churches and institutions. So the way around it is to make friends that's outside of this movement. And then as you get to know them, share with them the video, text it to them, right? And then who knows, they might get linked up on the algorithm and it might cause a cascading effect because you can fuck with the algorithm, but you have to do it in a very specific way. The other thing I want to talk about as far as solutions, countering isolation. A lot of people in this who are watching this, I know I've seen comments scrolling past where people said they're being overwhelmed and they feel isolated and they feel lonely. So a great way to handle this is it goes back to my 4 winds approach. I studied, I love to study Native American warfare. The reason being is because Native American warfare centers around being self-sufficient and working as a small army. So Native Americans would send out war bands, which would be around like 4 to 5 warriors who would go out and scout and wage their own war against colonialists and wage war against, opposing forces. It was part of survivalism and part of preparing ourselves and creating community is keeping it small at first. 4 people, get 4 friends that are in this movement or not in this movement. Start to prep with them, start to form your own language, your own code talk, your start to look after each other more, start to connect with each other on a very physical level in the sense of going hiking and doing stuff together instead of just digitally talking to each other. Meet up and form strategies and think outside the box, because you never know who might have the bright idea that could push this revolution forward even further. It could be anybody out there in the audience who forms a team of 3 other people and comes up and brainstorms strategies like we're doing here now. The whole reason why I'm doing this, why I'm doing this episode, is to inspire people to start doing the same thing in their own sphere, however small of a sphere it is. It doesn't matter how big of an influence you have. If you can form a small team and start brainstorming and start coming up with survival strategies, then before you know it, we might have this network of a bunch of squads surrounding the United States who are doing their own strategies to reach other people that the movement hasn't even thought of yet, because we're following the movement as if there's leaders involved. Everybody can. That's the beautiful thing about this movement. Everybody is becoming a leader. Nobody's looking up to one social media influencer for this movement. That's the beauty of this movement. It's so organic. I've never seen a movement like this before. It's usually like you got some organization who's leading the charge and you got some famous guy. Not in this movement. In this movement, you never know who's going to be the next leader. Everybody's become a leader. So it will help us with the isolating feeling that we're all going through. We're all like damn near suicidal at this point.
I don't know, but if I were to give somebody a crown, I mean, Medea is going to be my queen.
Oh, for sure. Of course, Medea. I mean, I was going to say that first, but yeah, of course. Medea. No, I know. Yeah. Touche.
Long live the queen.
No, and I agree. I love that the movement has so many leaders that we ultimately end up having no leaders. So there's no way to cut the head off of the snake. This is entirely grassroots, and there's no way to bring it down.
Fucking bingo. It's exactly right. Why did all the revolutionary movements in the past get severed? Because there were leaders. I mean, it's a great thing to have leaders. Don't get me wrong, but it spray paints a big bullseye on your back and say, "Hey, that's the person you need to take care of," and the whole thing falls apart. Decentralization is what has given this movement such fervor, because there's no one person to take out. And if you cut off the head of the snake, guess what? It's a hydra. It now grows back 14 other ones. So, anyways, so take that to account, guys. Go form a squad. Everybody watching this, go form a fucking squad.
I mean, this is case in point right here. The people on this call, like, they're from every genuine walk of life. We're the United Nations proper here on this call right now, and I think it's a testament to our movement. It's not like we're just a bunch of Palestinian folk here screaming from the rooftops. It's everybody. We got veterans, we've got Luz, and we got Mia's and Breeze and Amar's, and it's just it's really reassuring for me to have people like you guys that have our back. Again, I'm just going to reiterate that it just makes the movement that much stronger, and makes me genuinely, it drives me and it inspires me and continues to keep me going every single day, is people like you. So I completely agree with you, Mark. This is that's the way to keep this movement going. It's not just one group of people, it's all of us. And I think that's the point of trying to, again, as an action, is trying to loop all the other movements together, get them to understand our cause. We need to understand theirs. I'm learning genuinely something new every single day about other movements. I genuinely didn't know very much about, a lot of the Asian movements that was brought to my attention just this year. And I read myself. I did my own research, like I ask everyone to do for Palestine. I did that on my end, and it opened up a whole bunch of avenues in terms of knowledge. So I think it's important for us to understand other people's movements in order to bring them into ours, and vice versa. So I think this is the time to do it.
Exactly.
Absolutely.
And I highly recommend forming a squad. I mean, you're going to have people who are more well-known, like Mo, and then you're going to have people who are lesser well-known, like, me and Elmer and Bree and Mia. But, what you don't know about Bree is that she's been quintessential for getting help to families in Gaza. What you don't know about Mia is that she's been quintessential for helping us do the research to be able to form all of these videos that you see on the internet. She's in there, sending us article after article after article. Elmer's in there just, breaking it down step by step, showing us just how stupid the new talking points are because of this very easy logic that we all got caught up in because of all of the nuance, the layers, the mental traps that they try and suck you into. And now we're just oh, well, no, because this very obvious thing. And then, we've got Mark and we've got Greg, and they're doing so much trying to disseminate the information and showing us how. It's if you have a squad, you don't have to all be doing the same thing. And because there's multiple squads, there's multiple groups of people trying to get together and collaborating, everybody ends up doing better than they were before. So highly recommended.
Did you guys see the interview that Julian Assange did with the leader of Hezbollah years ago?
That'll be the first thing I watch after this.
It's really interesting. He made an interesting point. He said that what made Hez so effective is that Hezbollah consists of different people from different villages, and they have their own way of speaking. They have their own code language. For example, they know that Israel's eavesdropping on all the electronics, all the radio frequencies, but it doesn't matter because the people that they're listening to are using code language that only people in that village know. Like, hey, we have 5 chickens coming in. Where are the chickens? Everybody in that village knows what it is. And it was actually a really funny moment between Julian Assange and the leader of Hez. And there's a lesson to be learned there. When forming local squads, it creates a physical local community. It means you have home field advantage. It's kind of hard to be working in isolation for this movement and relying on the digital community when you're trying to reach your own community. But when you can start to grow a small community in your own location, you have home field advantage. It means that the 4 people in your squad are going to be able to know how to relate and to talk to the people that they in the area that they live in, right? So if you're in some town in Nebraska, and it's a small town, and you form a small squad of 4, then those 4 people are going to know that town in Nebraska, and they're going to know how to talk to those people in that town in Nebraska. So you have home field, and you're going to be able to speak language, not language that's used in leftist academic circles like social justice reform or stuff like that. They'll use the language used in that particular town, which gives you a home field advantage, which is why it's so important to form a squad. So guys, I will not stop emphasizing this. Go form a fucking squad, because I guarantee you that if you do that, it's going to help you with the psychological taxation that has been done on you and watching this, and you're going to feel like you have a support system. And if you start engaging in survivalism prepping, like making sure that everybody has enough food, you're prepped for a disaster, it benefits the community. So now we've turned the pro-Palestinian movement into a benefit for communities across the United States, because not only are we fighting for Palestine, we're actually creating networks of mutual aid that will help the people living in that community. God forbid something happens. And then who are they going to credit for that? The pro-Palestinian movement, right? So again, form a fucking squad. That's the last time I'll leave it there. Okay. So
guys, thanks for having me on, but I have to go.
That's okay, Omar. I appreciate you, man.
Thank you. All right.
Next time, come down to Chicago if we go down to Chicago, man.
Yeah. Hopefully soon. All right. Thanks, guys. I'll talk to you later.
All right. Love you, brother.
Bye, brother.
Bye.
All right. Let me
So guys, any more words? I know we're at 2.5 hours, and I cannot thank you enough for being on board with this panel. I'm sorry, but I'm not sorry, because the movement needed this. They needed you guys. And I know, Mo, you're tired. Too fucking bad, bro. You helped out a lot of people today who are watching this. You helped to give me a lot of encouragement. So your sacrifice will not be forgotten.
No, I appreciate you, man. No, thanks for having us, man. And I'm just going to speak for myself, but probably for all of us here. It's always a pleasure seeing your faces and, chopping it up with you guys, obviously, because I find value in every single thing you guys do in this movement. Always. Like you guys have said, we each have our own lanes and we do it well, I think, as a whole, and hitting everybody on multiple fronts in every single angle possible is the only way for us to win in this movement. So this group right here and this squad, to Mark's point, is a living testament to that. So I appreciate you guys big time.
And it's just an example. Like this squad right here pales into comparison about the potential squads out there. Geniuses out there who haven't even met each other yet, that are just need to accumulate. Now, before we go, 2 more items, just real quick. We were talking about, I was talking with Mia, texting Mia earlier about countering Zionist arguments. We're going to be Colonial Outcasts. I've met this former Marine is a conservative guy. And he's a genius. He's Puerto Rican descent, and he works in data analytics and all that. And he's pro-Palestinian. And he made this very exhaustive document, this paper, this analytical paper, that basically he's archived all of the arguments used on Americans on behalf of Israel. And he has created compiled an insane amount of data to counter each argument. We're going to be rolling that out as a resource for anybody to use. I sent it to Mia. Mia has it. But eventually we're going to roll it out to the public so that they can go to this document and you can literally find any argument that a Zionist would make, and you can give them hard, cold facts geared for a non-biased person to a conservative. So this is geared for a conservative audience, because they're the most vulnerable demographic when it comes to Hasbro, because they're fucking stupid. But this document has it's the antidote to the venom. And it's 130 pages. One of them is, and one's on the history, and one's on argument style, and one's on creating using real life examples to relate to show conservatives who are just steeped in ignorance based on propaganda to you. So we're going to be rolling that out. His name is Manny Cadre. We've been working on this for like a month now, and he's a genius. Second, I'm going to leave it off on this video that to me I think it's personally one of the most effective strategies we'll eventually have to start using, but pay attention to it. And it's centered around, if you guys don't know the term, anarchist calisthenics. And anarchist calisthenics was coined by James Scott, who wrote a series of essays called The Two Cheers for Anarchism. And it basically draws on the fact that one of the ways to fight this empire is by non-compliance, simple and exercising simple acts of non-compliance. What the empire did to put us in the spot we're in right now, where we have Trump is a symptom. We built the throne for Trump to sit on. If we didn't build the throne for Trump in the past 20 years, he wouldn't be able to do the things that he's doing. So don't put the full thing on Trump. It's our fault. We built his throne. And we did it because the empire was able to boil the frog slowly. If you guys don't know the concept of boiling the frog, if you put a frog in hot water, it will jump out. But if you put them in water and you slowly turn up the heat, you can cook the frog. Okay, that's the strategy that the empire used against us. Did you know that we can use that same strategy against the empire? And here's what I mean. I'm going to play this video.
Of overthrowing our corporate leaders. I'm going to tell you how I know this for a fact. Yesterday, I'm at Chipotle. I ordered double meat. My boy hooks it up fat, doesn't put a red tag down, slides it down the counter. I'm in heaven. But what happens next? 30 seconds passed. Girl walks up. Sorry, was this double meat? Look who wants a fucking promotion. Look who's itching for that manager position. For every one revolutionary Chipotle worker, there's 10 dorks, dude. There's 10 squares at the ready to sell you out. And for what? People don't like breaking rules.
The only way that I personally see the American people fighting back against this oppressive regime, this authoritarian oligarchy dictatorship that's like encroaching in everyday life, is to practice anarchist calisthenics. And I came across this term on TikTok because the wealth of knowledge on this app is unsurpassable. I have learned so much from people. So I want to do it justice. I'm going to tell you what the official definition is, right? And it comes from political scientist James Scott in his essay, Two Cheers for Anarchism. And it serves as a metaphor for small everyday acts of defiance that prepare individuals to resist oppressive authority when the need arises. Basically, we have to get into the habit of defying authority in small ways. That's how you build up resistance to rules, to authority figures, to people telling you what to do. That's how you reach a threshold where you no longer give a shit about the rules because you realize that the rules are not there to protect you, and instead they're there to suffocate you. So think of like rule-breaking activities, like small ones that you can start off with. Because I'm sure that you've noticed one or two fucking stupid rules around your town that have no common sense to them, no logic whatsoever, but people just blindly follow them. So this is a strategy to stop doing that. And as you build that tolerance for it, then you start challenging like larger systems of authority. And that's when you're not scared of the consequences or the repercussions anymore because you've built up that tolerance for rule breaking. Because the system, the powers that be, the ruling class, they're banking on people following the rules, following the law, while they themselves do not. Anarchist calisthenics train people to recognize and resist abuses of power in more significant situations. It's about moral judgment instead of blind obedience. Unfortunately, here's the bad news. I have seen way too many instances, way too many examples of people being unable to do this. So at the end of the day, people are going to be the ones that are impeding progress. We are our own worst enemies. Now, as someone that grew up being terrified of authority and being told every step of the way that I need to follow the rules, regardless of what they are, just blindly follow them, I, initially had a really hard time with this concept. But in the past year, as my eyes have opened to the injustices of the world, and especially what has been done to the Palestinians, now more than ever, I'm like, fuck you to almost every single rule. And more so, fuck you to the people that blindly follow them. And I had to think about this one instance where my friend did not pay for a train ticket because she couldn't find the ticket machine at the station. She took the train, she went to the next station, she went to the cashier, and she's like, hey, I would like to pay for my fare because I couldn't find a way to pay for it in the previous station. And then the person at the cashier was like, oh, you know what? You didn't pay for your fucking ride. we're going to give you a penalty fee of £50, even though you want to do right and you're honest and you want to pay for it now. Those are the people that are going to stand in our way. Those are the people standing in the way of progress. Those are the people siding with authority and the systems at large. Another instance that I noticed was officers or city workers giving out parking tickets to people that are currently being affected by the wildfires in LA. So people are losing their entire homes. They're leaving their cars because they need to run away because the fires are like engulfing the whole place. But these assholes are going around giving parking tickets. Those are the problematic assholes. So the only way to really counteract that is that if you're in that one of those positions in the managerial role or in the city, or you're working for an evil corporation, the only way to really start making an impact on the overall system is to practice anarchist calisthenics.
Great advice. I think she nailed it. I think that's one of the most effective strategies. Protesting is great. Shutting down the streets is great. But in your everyday life, we could do so much more when we're not on the streets. And we have to start thinking this way because they don't abide by the rules. Our leaders, our ruling class, they don't give a fuck about rules, but they apply it to us. So let's boil the frog of the empire at the very least. That being said, we'll do another round robin, a final word, and tell everybody your handle on social media as you do it. So, Brianna, I'm sorry. You were quiet down there. You got to interrupt us, man. Like, you know us in the chats.
Oh, okay. What?
Yeah, final word. What are your thoughts?
Final word. Okay. So I kind of wanted to, this goes way back. I guess I should have interrupted then when Mo was talking about the people that are, Mo and Lou, actually, you both were talking about people that are not Palestinian speaking out, right? One thing that I wanted to press on, which kind of is a little bit about what you were talking about, the guy that came up with the different talking points and the rebuttals. One thing that I really would like to encourage people to do is to become familiar with rules within like speech and debate, straw man fallacies, red herrings, because when you are listening to these arguments, right, that can be disproven or whatever, it's really good to have a good knowledge on that, so then you don't get sidetracked in the conversation, because I see a lot of that online. So that's just my encouragement. And my handle is at Brianna with one N, because it's Brianna, not Brianna. Brianna based.
Wait, did I call you Brianna?
No.
Oh, okay.
I don't think so. I just,
Awesome. Love you, Brie.
Love you.
Mo?
So my handle is Mo_Hamz. So MO_HAMZ. And I'm not sure how long that handle's gonna last. So my backup is Pally Ranger, PALIRANGER. But yeah, I mean, if you guys don't know my content, it's I try to put out news in very bite-sized formats and like in a way where it's not just the news, but it's also my opinion as well. Just to keep things like at least as fresh and creative as possible, as we understand like the news keeps coming at us at every single minute of the day. We need to like keep things fresh and creative as fresh and creative as possible. So that's kind of what I try to do on my end. And then you probably, those that do know me know that I tend to be fairly angry at times and yell a lot, but that's honestly more of a coping mechanism for myself. It's cathartic and it's my way of really venting and getting it all out, to be quite honest. And it was originally more for myself and just to get everything off my chest as much as possible. And people have been really resonating with that sentiment and actually understanding that level of anger, which has been pretty refreshing in the movement, in my opinion. So yeah, I mean, definitely follow. It's not, I mean, sometimes it might be a little too hard hitting. I do tend to put a lot of some graphic stuff up there because I'm of the mentality that everybody must bear witness, but not to the point of normalization. And everyone needs, I want to make sure that people bear witness so that they share with other people that do not understand what is happening. And as graphic as it may be, people have to see it because it is absolutely absurd that we're witnessing this on live stream, and it's still happening to this day. So that is my spiel, and thank you, Mark and Colonial Outcast and Greg, for having me and being a part of this amazing panel who I love dearly.
Love you, bro. It was amazing meeting you in Chicago, man. It was great. Great to see you in person.
Likewise, brother.
Mia, my partner in LA crime.
Yo. I guess I want to reiterate, like other people in this group did, that it's been relieving to have partnership with everybody on this panel. And there's a few of us that are not on this panel that are in the group that give each other assistance with research and emotional and mental therapy. There's a lot of therapy that goes into that group chat that I think that many of us don't realize is very important. There's a lot of groups outside where you can go on Instagram, go on TikTok, find your local Veterans for Peace group, Code Pink groups. They always have activism and events. They usually don't post them more than 2 weeks out, but hit up any of those get-togethers, collaborate with people, talk to people, make friends at those places. And, these are going to be like-minded people because, in my regular day-to-day life, I can talk about this shit, but there maybe is only one or two that can keep up. Everybody else is just either horrified or they want me to stop talking about it or something like that. And so I feel I started to feel a little bit alone in this until I was like, well, you know what? Fuck this. I'm just going to go find my people. How about that? And so I didn't get to say what the W's were. So I guess I want to end off in like a more positive note. The Gallup research says that less than half of Americans are now sympathetic to Israelis. The International Court of Justice, there was 2 court cases that were going on. There's one for the genocide in Gaza. There was also one that was going for the illegal settlements in the West Bank. And that one concluded that the settlements are fucking illegal. So now everything that is happening in the West Bank will be internationally illegal. So if there is any pushback, what we do, on the ground in social media is going to have an impact because now we have legal backing, according to the International Court of Justice. The Spain had its first Palestinian ambassador. Mexico has its first Jewish woman president who also named a Palestinian ambassador. She is very pro-Palestinian, but she's very quiet about it. So those are also some W's that I'm going to say. And, as long as we keep speaking out, I think this is going to continue. Like Greg said, this is not a short battle. This is in for the long haul. It took 10 years for people to be like, oh, well, maybe we shouldn't have went to the Middle East after 9/11. And this is going to be kind of the same battle, but I see it being, I see that happening there, because there's no fucking way that after the Israelis have, publicly shown all of their crimes that everybody's gonna be like, yeah, Israel has the right to defend itself. Yeah, because everybody sees through that bullshit now. Anyway, I love you guys. Thank you so much for hosting this panel, Mark and Colonial Outcast, for everything that you guys do. Love you guys.
Love you, sis.
Love you.
Lou.
Mia, you forgot your handle.
Yeah. Oh yeah, right.
On Instagram, I'm Space Bunny News 1, and on TikTok, I'm Space Bunny 452. I fucking hate that name. I really apologize about it. I can't stand it.
I'm so sorry.
It's how I remember to find you, though. Like, it worked for me because I was like, "Who's that one Native American girl
so
who's speaking for Palestine?" Space Bunny News. No, I think it worked.
No, because when I used to host my lives and stuff, everybody would like nickname me like, "Hi, Bunny," and I'm like, "Oh my god, that sounds like my after hours name. Like I should be working." I hate it.
Oh my god.
Anyway, Glad I got everybody laughing at the end of this.
Oh, hell yeah.
I'm Lucius Niece on Instagram and Twitter. It's Lucius Riker on TikTok and Lucius Riker on YouTube. Lucius Niece is LUCIUXNESS. And I guess for final words, one of the things that I ultimately want to really stress for all of you is to question everything, every single narrative, especially narratives that are coming out from the Israeli government. When they say things like there are no civilians in Gaza, I want you to really analyze the crap out of that statement. When they say there are no civilians in Gaza, I want you to look into it, because it turns out that since Gazans are not part of a Palestinian state, since they won't grant Palestinian statehood whatsoever, they're not part of a state military. Everybody is a civilian inside of Gaza, even the militants, even the resistance. And the only time they are not considered legally under international law to be civilians is when they are actively in the process of fighting. So if they go home, if they go back to their tents, they go back to their families, they are not on a battlefield, they are legally defined as civilians. I want you to question everything. I want you to look up everything. I want you to challenge every single concept that you thought was totally true and valid this entire time. And I just lost my light. I'm sorry. Another thing that I want to see from you guys is, even if you have just a pocket full of sand, I want you to throw it in the gears of capitalism. I want you to throw it in the gears of imperialism, the occupation. I want you to do things to disrupt the way the status quo is currently going, just because even the smallest action, even if it's not illegal, even the smallest action helps if we all do it. And I wanted to thank Greg and Mark and everybody on the panel, including the people who have left, for running this, even though we went massively over time. And we talked over each other quite a lot. Not nearly as much as I was expecting, though.
Me too. You guys are very well disciplined. Love it.
Not at all. We're just all exhausted.
Yeah, actually, that's kind of why I paused after you asked me to start the whole ending of this.
I know.
It's like,
I
oh,
know.
wait, what? What was I supposed to say?
Right,
Oh, crap.
right.
I had something for that. I have notes. I have notes up on the computer specifically
done that.
because of this.
I
You know
think
what?
we're all maintaining professionalism right now, but when we're in person, that's totally different.
I am not
Yeah.
maintaining
Yes, sir.
professionalism. I am currently wearing pajamas. I will have you know.
My sweatpants don't match my top, so.
Mark's got no pants on right now, basically.
God damn it, bro. Come on. Nobody needs to know that.
I was just going to say that. Nobody needs to know.
Oh, guys, thank you so much for coming on. I'll leave it. My last word. Guys, once upon a time, I was the most cringy, bro, evangelical, dumbass, redneck evangelical Zionist. I said evangelical twice. I was redundant. Okay, fuck it. I was a crazy ass evangelical when I was age 18. I moved to Jerusalem to join the IDF and become part of Israeli society. The reason why I'm here today is because a group of Palestinian dudes decided to take me on as one of their friends, even though I was a dumbass, even though I was full of Islamophobia, even though I was full of so much propaganda. I loved Bush. That's how bad I was. I was arguing for Bush in a room full of Palestinians in Jerusalem. I was the most cringy motherfucker you've ever met. I was dumb, so dumb, but they loved me, and they still were my friend, and they still wanted to hang out with me and talk with me and smoke hookah with me, and they invited me to their villages, and they knew I was a dumbass, but I was their dumbass. I was the dumbass of Palestine, and they took me as one of their own. The reason why I'm telling you this story is because
I was going to say that's Mark's handle, the dumbass of Palestine.
I might be a dumbass, but I'm their dumbass. But the reason why I'm telling you this is because we're representing Palestine in this movement. Let's start behaving like them. There are people in this country, especially this country, who are just so ignorant, and they just simply don't know. They're not necessarily evil. They're not necessarily genocidal. They're just filled up with a lot of bullshit propaganda. And sometimes all it takes is being a friend and being patient with their ignorance and educating them and seeing them first as a human being before you see their ideology. That's what Palestine taught me. Palestinians, they don't look at the ideology. If you go to a Palestinian village and you are walking the streets, they don't care what religion you are. They're just like, that's another human being. I wonder if he wants some fucking tea or some fucking hummus or some lebna, right? That's how Palestinians behave. But us Americans, we're so egocentric. We put up so much purity testing. We're so sensitive. Palestinians can't afford that. And it's in their deep-rooted, in their millennia-old culture to be hospitable no matter who you are. If we want to be effective in this movement, we have to start behaving like Palestinians. They're the best teachers on this. Trust me. So if there's people that you feel cringy about reaching out to, maybe they just don't make you feel uncomfortable, suck it up and go reach out to them. Start talking to people that you normally would not talk to. Because if they didn't invite me in to smoke hookah and eat hummus with them, I would probably have joined the IDF. And I would be an extreme Zionist right now on a pro-Zionist live right now. Think of how they changed my life through that simple act of kindness. That's my lesson for you guys. Start behaving like Palestinians if you want to win, because that's who we're representing right now. Last thing, form a fucking squad in your local community. Just fucking do it. It will help with your mental health. It will create a safety net. It will benefit your community, and it will benefit the whole movement. Because only you have the answer. We don't have the answers here on this panel, but you might. We're just one small segment of what's possible out there. That being said, my handle is Mark Wayne Director on Instagram. I don't even know what it is on fucking TikTok. I suck at TikTok, but I love you guys. And I love this family that we formed. We have performed miracles throughout these 500 plus days. Unfortunately, it was because of the blood being shed of Palestinian people. But their sacrifice must not go in vain. It must be the end of empire, because they have given everything. They've already passed the test of all humanity. Now it's up to us to carry what they stand for throughout the world and against empire for the sake of everybody on this planet, not just the Palestinians, but everybody. So that being said, I'm going to end this live. I appreciate everybody for tuning in, and I hope you took something away from this. I hope it inspired you to do something in your local community, because that was the point of all this. So we're going to get some sleep. I'm going to go home. Mo is about to drop dead on his freaking wherever he's sitting right now in his kitchen, with Green Day records behind him, right? Is that what I see back there? You Green Day nerd.
Lots of them. Yeah, man.
Love you guys. Bree, you and I are going to talk about strategies for the Midwest at some point soon. I really want to pick your brain for that.
Sounds good.
Awesome.
All right. Much love, everyone.
Free Palestine, guys. Free the whole
y'all.
world. Free America.
Hey, guys.
Ending.